Staff's ready. We're ready. All right, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started today with the Committee on Affordability and Accountability and Planning's meeting on June 25th, 2014. And welcome to everybody here today. We've got a very full agenda and lots of important topics to talk about, so I appreciate you being here. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast over the internet. And I'd also, at this time, like to do one of the things that's fun. I get to be the first one to welcome Jerry Cordy as our new student representative. We've had several, each year we have a new student representative appointed by the governor, and so we're very fortunate to have Jerry here for his one-year term. He did his undergraduate work at Purdue University and is currently a first-year osteopathic medical student at the UNT Health Science Center in Fort Worth. In addition to his studies and his role on the coordinating board, Jerry serves as the honor code representative for his medical school class, tutors at the Center for Academic Performance, and is an orientation leader. He's also a member of Sigma Sigma Phi, the honorary service fraternity for osteopathic students. And at this time, we'd like to welcome Jerry to the board for his term for this year. And Jerry, if you'd like to say a few words about joining the board.
I'm very excited to be here and to be able to represent the students of Texas. So thank you for the welcome.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we look forward to working with you. We had our orientation yesterday. Jerry and staff and Chairman Hahn and I got to talk about all the things that go on. And after about 3 hours, you kind of realize, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. So welcome, Jerry, and we all look forward to working with you.
And he didn't leave.
He did not leave. He hung in there all the way through. So that's right. Very, very good. All right. So agenda item number 2 is consideration of approval of the minutes from the March 26, 2014 meeting. Any questions or discussion about the minutes? If not, I need a motion. I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Agenda item 3 is consideration of approval of the consent calendar. There are no items on the consent calendar. Are there any agenda items anyone wants to move to the consent calendar today? Seeing none, then we will go ahead and move on. I just look to Dr. Tesher to... Thank you. All right.
Move approval.
We approve that we're not going to move anything. Agenda item number 4 is public testimony on items relating to the Committee on Affordability, Accountability, and Planning. At this point, we don't have anyone registered to testify, so we will continue and move on. Agenda item 5A is consideration of adopting the Rand Community College Baccalaureate Study, which addresses the regional workforce needs of the state to determine regions of the state that would benefit from the authorization of baccalaureate degree programs in the fields of nursing and applied sciences at public community colleges. Senate Bill 414 from the 83rd Texas Legislature regular session. Charles Goldman with the Rand Corporation will provide a presentation on Senate Bill 414 and has invited a panel of 6 to discuss the nursing issues and another panel of 6 to discuss issues regarding the applied science fields. There's a list of panelists with their affiliation next to your place. This is intended to be a discussion with the board about possible policies. After we hear from each of the panels, we will vote on the Rand report and will then move into a discussion of draft staff recommendations. And so we will start now with Charles with the first presentation from the first panel.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite the first panel to join me up here at the podium. And we will be, as you said, we will have first a panel focused on applied sciences and second on nursing. Although we've told the panelists that they're free to briefly reference both topics if they wish in their remarks. We've invited an equal number of community college and university representatives to speak on each panel. I've asked the panelists to follow a pretty strict 3-minute time limit for their opening remarks so that we can keep the panel moving and give you plenty of time to engage in an interactive discussion with the panel. So I apologize to my panelists in advance if I'm rude and I tell you that your time is up. I've got a couple of little signs here which I'll try to flash discreetly at you. I will introduce each panelist as they begin to speak. So first, I would like to turn the podium over to Dr. Carrie Israel, president of Collin College.
Thank you very much, Charles, and thank you for the opportunity to address this critical issue in Texas. I'm just going to make a brief comment about a broad approach, and that is there's been a lot of discussion about mission creep and decline in quality, and I think we just have to look at the indicators on quality and the indicators that are happening at Collin College and nursing and other activities. We've been doing post-baccalaureate work in alternative teacher certification and other areas for a long time. I'm going to talk about a really compelling problem in our society, and that's cybercrime, and why we would need an applied baccalaureate degree in that area. It's an economic threat globally, as you all know, and it's significant costs. Last year, for the 60 major companies, it was a $11.56 million annual cost, or a 26% increase from 2012. In the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where I'm living, there's a 24% growth need. There's now 3,381 people working in this field. Yet, the entry level, as of 2014, from the Occupational Outlook Handbook, indicates that the entry level should be a bachelor's degree. In looking at the college and universities, there's no one offering, other than ITT. ITT is offering a bachelor's degree in cyber security, and they had only 38 completers. If you look at the universities, Texas A&M Commerce requires one course in their information security program. The University of North Texas requires one course related in its business and computer information systems. Texas Christian University requires a single course. University of Texas at Dallas, a very strong partner with us in our higher education center, takes an intermediate approach, offering one cybersecurity course focused as an elective option. It's a dire need. We're ready to do it. We are a national center by the National Science Foundation and Convergence Technology. We're also a national demonstration project for cybersecurity with a $20 million grant 2 years ago. We are ready. We have 250 businesses. We've been read into the congressional record, and we want the opportunity for our citizens and our residents and our businesses to hire locally and not hire from other states in order to meet this need. Certainly not from other states that community college is offering baccalaureate degrees in the same field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Israel. Now I'd like to turn the microphone over to Dr. Karen Murray, who's Executive Vice President of Academic Affairs and Provost at Tarleton State University. You need to switch your mic on if it's not.
Thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to present before you today. What I'd like to do is very briefly describe the types of programs and activities that Tarleton State University offers in the applied science options. We have a variety of degree programs in these areas. We've offered them for a very long period of time. I remember very vividly in 1990 when we went through our SACS accreditation, our visiting team wanted to know what these degrees were and what on earth we were doing with them. And that prompted a very intentional review on our part about their purpose and how we were going to manage them. And since that point in time, we put together a very rigorous committee process that reviews student portfolios. These applied science degrees bring in 33 block hours of what we determine are either technical, experience, certificate, military workforce credit. that are reviewed on their applicability toward the particular degree they are earning. So a student may bring in those 33 hours, their 42-hour core. So walking in the door, students entering in these programs typically are transferring in 75 hours already toward their baccalaureate degree. We offer these degrees in the areas of applied science and business management. We have them in criminal justice administration, business administration, manufacturing and industrial management, and in medical applied technology or health professions technology programs. And so we serve a variety of students. We offer these degree completion programs online. We offer them at our center in the Southwest Metroplex in Fort Worth. We offer them at the Midlothian Higher Education Center in Midlothian in partnership with Navarro College, and we offer them in Waco in partnership with McLennan Community College. This last year, we awarded 224 of this category of degree. That grew from 2 years ago from 128, 1 year ago 182, this past year 224. So by combining these delivery sites and delivery modes, we are beginning to reach a very large number of students. All of these programs offered off our main campus are done in partnership with our community college partners, which include Weatherford College, the Tarrant County College System, Hill College, McLennan Community College, and Navarro College. Each of these degrees we offer with the current infrastructure that the university has. They have no courses that we do not offer already for their Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Art, or Bachelor of Business Administration counterparts. So they add no additional costs to the university, but greatly impact our effectiveness and our efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murray. Next, I'd like to turn to Mr. Reginald Gates, who's the Vice Chancellor of Tarrant County College.
Good morning. Let me first extend greetings and regrets on behalf of our Chancellor, Irma Johnson Hadley, who schedule wouldn't allow her to be here today. Thought I'd just give you a little bit of background by way of profile about Tarrant County College. We were established in 1965. Our first campus opened in '67. We currently have 5 major campuses, Health Professions Campus, and our latest campus is virtual. It's called TCC Connect. And we have about 4 satellite centers where we do different services for the community by way of education. Each year, 1 out of every 18 Tarrant County residents enrolls in a course at Tarrant County College. We're the 6th largest college or university in Texas, and we're the 15th largest higher education institution in the nation. Our credited and uncredited enrollment has topped 100,000 total students annually. We offer 4 types of degrees: Associate for Arts, of Science, and Arts in Teaching, and Applied Science. We offer certificates of completion and several continuing ed programs, and we're ranked 20th among all institutions of higher education in terms of associate degrees awarded. Our college programs cover more than 80 technical and transfer areas. While we do offer the nursing program, and I know the second panel will address that, but by way of the issue at hand, while we're still studying this at this time, because of some of the unique partnerships that we have, and especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they number some 40 plus, 11 of which are with Metroplex-based colleges and universities. We don't see the offering of baccalaureate programs as prudent for what we do within the Metroplex. While we understand that this is somewhat of a geographical kind of issue to deal with, and you have unique circumstances, for us at this point, we don't see it as something that we would want to indulge. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to turn the floor over to Dr. Rob Stewart, who's Senior Vice Provost of Texas Tech.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to comment this morning and for receiving our comments. At Texas Tech, we do have some reservations about community colleges offering the baccalaureate degree. Anecdotally, as I was driving into the city this morning, there was a billboard offered by one of the local colleges, the wording on which was simply training for today. And while mission creep has been addressed in the report, very important to consider are the differences in mission between community colleges and our colleges and universities, four-year colleges and universities. While it may make sense that in very specific ways, as addressed and commented in the report, that community colleges might offer some technical baccalaureate degrees, it's important to make that distinction between training and education as well. Where education is offered by community colleges, Texas Tech values very much partnering with community colleges in that aspect of educating a general population, and for particular occupations, obviously, and careers, but also civic and public engagement that our students might enjoy based on their educations. One of our concerns is, where do the faculty come from that would offer and teach in the baccalaureate degree programs in community colleges? Where would those faculty be educated and prepared for what they're going to deliver to baccalaureate students in a community college environment? This is an affordability question, and one in which the report, as indicated as limitation, might be able to provide more data, more information based on actual study of cost analysis with respect to faculty preparation for these programs. We value, as I mentioned a moment ago, working with community colleges in their own locales through 2+2 programs, etc., finishing out baccalaureate opportunities at their campuses, or in reverse, programs where community college students transfer into our programs. Much like Tarleton, Texas Tech is introducing its first applied science baccalaureate program beginning this fall, and one in which we hope will serve particularly students who have completed an applied associate's degree at a community college. Some of this will be online and eventually may be doable completely online over time. And we think those kinds of partnerships, particularly given remote regions such as Lubbock, can in fact serve the sorts of population and needs that are intended by the baccalaureate study that you're considering. So with this, while we understand needs in specific geographic areas, the applied needs, especially administrative needs with respect to applied areas of industry and commerce, we think the overall aspect of mission needs to be considered very greatly with respect to affordability, the cost incurred, and the very nature of the kind of baccalaureate degrees that the students of Texas would be receiving. Again, thank you for your time in listening to us.
Thank you very much. As you know, 3 Texas community colleges currently have authorization to offer the baccalaureate degrees, and so we've asked Dr. Shirley Reed, president of South Texas College, which is one of those 3, to join us on the panel today and share her experiences.
I know you put me next to Dr. Stewart for a reason. Commissioner, members of the coordinating board, do appreciate the opportunity to share a little of our experience. It has been over a decade, 11 years, since South Texas College began the journey of offering the applied baccalaureate. There were great concerns about quality, great concerns about mission creep. We began in 2003. Then in 2007, the coordinating board brought a team from 3 different states to evaluate our programs. We were very successful. Then in 2009, the coordinating board and the staff brought another team from 3 other states to look at our programs. And when all was said and done, the report said there was no indication that we were abandoning our traditional mission. We were not taking resources from other programs. We were delivering quality. And we do believe we are delivering quality applied baccalaureates, which we recognize are very different from academic baccalaureates. Since we began this program, we've had 586 graduates. And you talked about cost efficiency. We have prepared these 586 graduates with a total state appropriation of $1.5 million. We've used $1.5 million to deliver the junior and senior level for these applied baccalaureates. If you do the math, that's $2,690 per graduate. Now, we also received a special appropriation back in 2004 for startup costs, and we used those startup costs to achieve Level 2 accreditation and to develop the 3 programs. And we are now offering our 4th program, and I must say at the request of Commissioner Paredes. That's certainly a testimony of confidence in the quality of our programs. The report addresses mission creep, addresses quality. We have 2 opinions, and I don't see reconciling those 2 opinions anytime soon. What I have learned from this 11-year journey is we can find PhD-prepared faculty. We get them from your institution. We get them from A&M. We get them from UT. We get them from out of state. So we do have access to quality terminal degree faculty. We already have many PhD faculty on our staff, and that's not unusual at community colleges. But a point I'd like to make is community colleges do have the responsibility of responding to local community needs. We serve as catalysts for the economic development and really the regional prosperity of our region. We need to respond. Our industries cannot wait 2 years for a feasibility study, another 2 years to assess quality, and another 4 years for a political solution. I urge whatever the guidelines that come forth from the coordinating board, do be receptive to the need to respond to business and industry in a quick and quality way. I'll close by just saying I don't believe this is for all community colleges. The rigor of the accreditation process will cause community colleges to self-select, and it's certainly not feasible in all areas. But those of us in deep South Texas, and that's below San Antonio, we really don't have access to a large number of partners. That is really a challenge. We don't have a place for our applied science graduates to transfer. Our neighboring university, as you know, is becoming a new institution. They're not offering applied baccalaureates, and I don't know that they will once the new university emerges. So we have taken on the task. We feel it's our responsibility to serve our community. And Dr. Goldman, I thank you for the comprehensiveness, the thoroughness, and the balance of your report. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Dr. Reed. And I'd like to recognize Dr. Jamie Hebert, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Sam Houston State.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, members of the committee, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to testify before you, and asking our input in this is a great show of faith in the educational system that we have here in the state of Texas. At Sam Houston State, we have enjoyed for quite a while a wonderful relationship with community colleges, not only in our region but throughout the state, with articulation agreements primarily in academic programs. for transferability, seamless transferability for community college students into our university. But we also have a Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences degree that's available to students. And although it's not as widely used as that at Tarleton, we do graduate 10 to 15 students each year within that program. We feel that one of the reasons that program has been underutilized is we really don't have a lot of industrial businesses and corporations in the Huntsville area, and those students don't have on-the-ground access to our programs. But in response to that, what we have done is to place all of the coursework necessary to complete that BAAS degree online. What happens, a student who has an Associate of Applied Science from any community college within the state can enter our BAAS program at Sam Houston. We take the in-block credit that's associated with their technical training, and we count that as the major. We have a handful of elective courses we have that are used to complement the technical training for that student, sort of building their own major around that technical training with regard to their career aspirations, if you will. We have an Applied Arts and Sciences coordinator who works individually with each of those students to form those electives. In addition to that, the student is required to complete a minor at the university and required to complete the remainder of the core, all the while meeting the requirements for a bachelor's degree here within the state of Texas, and that's 42 hours of advanced coursework that they take through our programs. The minors that are available to these students, we now have 18 distinct minors that are completely available online at Sam Houston. And although our core is not completely available, not every single course in our core is available online, we do have a number of different pathways for a student to complete online all of the core requirements. So, for example, all of our mathematics courses within the core may not be online, but we do have 2 of them, so that students can complete their core requirements online as well. And then we have over 300 advanced level electives that are available to these students to complete their advanced hours, as well as to complete the complementary electives that would go along with the in-block credit that they're transferring in. Bottom line is that the entire BAAS program now is available to students who have completed an Associates of Applied Sciences. It's available to them online, so that regardless of where they're working, they can enroll in our courses. They're offered evenings, they're offered, a lot of them are flexible hours, so that access is available to those students. And with that said, I think my time's up here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hebert, and I want to thank all the panelists, and now return the floor to the board for your questions and discussion.
Members, great time to ask this group of folks any questions that you have. Commissioner?
I have a question, President Israel. Have you talked to your counterparts at the local universities, both public and private, about partnerships to meet this need in cybersecurity?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. As you know, you approved, and we're very appreciative, our MITSE, our Higher Education Center, a number of years ago. That's where my office is, and our pro forma said that we'd have, in 3 years, 1,000 junior, senior, and graduate students. We now are out of room with 2,500 with our 5 university partners. That's been a resounding success, and I absolutely have always wanted collaboration. I would like the universities to do this. I don't even want to be here. But the biggest issue that people aren't addressing is, one, I've talked to David Daniels extensively. We have a great partnership, and they're doing tremendous research in cybersecurity. But no one's doing what business and industry need. We have Toyota moving in, as you know, with 4,000 jobs. We have 8,000 jobs moving in from Illinois with State Farm Insurance. We have enormous amount of corporations there. They need people in this arena, and no one's producing it, nor are they going to produce it. That's one. We're in one of the most affluent counties in Texas. Yet 46% of our students are on financial aid because they're poor. They can't afford this tuition. There's $1 trillion worth of debt out there. I would love for a university to come, since I'm providing all these 125,000 square feet free to them, to discount their tuition by 30%. Because I'll discount it if we have the opportunity to offer the applied baccalaureate degree in a couple fields. That's all I'm talking about. At 50% reduction in cost. Everyone's talking about online. Well, good. Then reduce your costs on online, because I can reduce it. And no one's talking about the big issue in this room, and that's affordability. I started a weekend college in 2005. I have 3,000 students in that. I just copied what universities did with an MBA. You can get an MBA on a weekend. Why can't you get an associate degree on the weekend? Because everyone doesn't want to learn online. Plus, a single parent with 2 kids, it's hard to find childcare. It's very costly and so forth. Well, it's been a resounding success. Now half of those people want to get a baccalaureate degree. It's in the same delivery modality, but there's not one university in our area that will send a full-time faculty, because no full-time faculty are going to work on the weekends. Now, I have my full-time faculty work on the weekends because I don't have tenure, because when I came here, we got rid of tenure, and all our faculty are on contracts, and they like it. And so we rotate it so that everyone doesn't have to work in a weekend, maybe once every 3 years. And so we're responding to the needs of the citizens and the students in an affordability way, in a different modality way, at a cost-effective way. And I am reaching out because, again, I want collaboration, or we wouldn't have created the Higher Education Center. I want collaboration. But in some fields, no one wants to do it. And so I'm begging here. I don't have to create baccalaureate degrees in nursing. I don't have to do it in cybersecurity either. If they would come forward and reduce their costs, using all my equipment, state-of-the-art. Lastly, it's just unique to my area. We're the only county in the United States with more than 750,000 residents. We have 876,000, with 75 people coming every day, that doesn't have a 4-year public. And it's not about miles, it's about time. We have gridlock. And that's why our Higher Education Center is real successful, because they can't get downtown Dallas, they can't get to Denton, and so they come to my facilities, which is free of charge for them. Yet they charge parking, and I don't charge parking. Interesting. So let's get back to the real issue. Let's get back to the real issue about what's happening in here and why they're doing it. And is for the basis of is it for the individuals and the constituents and the citizens and for the corporations? Again, I'm all for collaboration, and I've been talking about it. Our needs aren't being met, and I'm talking about our students and our corporations, and it's going to get worse in this state, especially in healthcare. This is not a place. I love Texas. Not a place to retire. 70,000 shortage of nurses. I have a double start. I just started a program with veterans who are medics to fast track them to become nurses. We can't produce enough nurses the next 4 years for Texas. And let's not talk about the shortage of physicians, 23,000 by 2020. I don't know where anyone's going to get health care here. Okay, so long-winded response. I apologize, Dr. Perez, but again, I think all of us are moving in some directions because the needs aren't being met, and no one wants to respond to those needs, and I'm begging for it. meet me after. We'll work a deal. Thank you.
Chairman.
I think it's fairly obvious that, that there's some divisiveness. But how much of this is about protecting bailiwicks versus meeting the needs of Texas? Am I off base there, or I hear mission creep, I hear these things, and at the same time I hear employers that want to hire people but they can't find qualified applicants. So what is the issue? I mean, are the universities afraid that the community colleges are going to take business away from them? What's your take? I don't care who responds, except you. You've already talked.
I used to be a lawyer, see?
You were paid by the word?
Right.
Dr. Stewart.
I think it's more than just the mission creep issue from the university's perspective. I think there is a concern about affordability. Without the hard analyses, it's difficult to know how many new faculty qualified to teach in these programs will be required, how the universities are going to educate those faculty, master's or doctoral level individuals.
Please pull the mic closer to you.
Is your light on?
So what resources are available to the universities to help prepare what community colleges need? We do have some availability, as South Texas has indicated, and each of the universities contributes to that. But we're talking about growth, and it's not only in terms of students and programs, it's in terms of faculty to deliver those programs. There's been mention of accreditation and those faculty needing to be accredited at the course level for teaching what they teach. That is, educated in the specific delivery of those kinds of courses. And it's not a quality issue. At least at Texas Tech, we're not questioning the quality of community college programs and delivery. We get excellent transfer students from across the state. So I think part of this issue about where we go with baccalaureates in community colleges is, the big picture in terms of affordability and provisioning and resourcing in ways with respect to faculty development as well.
But Dr. Reed, you indicated that you hire PhDs from all of the major institutions in Texas. I mean, so are the universities concerned with the competitiveness that the community colleges are going to compete for that scarce resource?
I don't think they're concerned about competition. I can only speak for my region in deep South Texas. The need is so compelling. Texas Tech, come on down. Everybody else, come on down. We need all of you if we're really going to make a dent. I think somehow we have been put in our little boxes, and universities do XYZ, and community colleges do XYZ, and we really can't move out of those boxes. As I said, it has been 11 years we've been offering these programs. They're highly successful. Our students are working. Our students are going into master's degree programs. Our employers are happy. We don't duplicate. Resources don't permit that. I don't see it being a big problem, frankly. When you look at our total enrollment at South Texas College, 31,000 students, 1% is in the baccalaureate program. The tail is not going to wag the dog. That 1% is not going to change our mission, not going to change the faculty, not going to change the focus of the institution. We're going to remain a premier community college and respond to the needs of our employers by offering very selective applied baccalaureates. I don't think it's that complicated, ladies and gentlemen.
You indicated you
you
serve 100,000 students?
We have 31,000 students.
31,000.
And 1% is enrolled in the baccalaureate.
Dr. Murray, how many students does Tarleton serve?
Our enrollment this fall will be around 12,000.
That's online, that's
At
everything.
every location and every delivery mode, yes.
Very good.
Right at 20,000 at Sam Houston this fall.
So we have all this demand. Where are you capacity-wise now? I mean, if we don't build more monuments and edifices and that sort of thing, aren't we looking at more online just because?
We are. We're looking at more online, but we're also, the cooperation between our community colleges and our four-year institutions so that we don't have duplication of administrative effort and so forth and so on, I think is really crucial. For example, we're in the Lone Star area. We've built our own building adjacent to their property. We offer completer programs down there on the campuses. We listen to what our community college students are interested in studying. And as far as the nursing goes, we are renovating our fourth floor of that building as we speak, so that we have a direct transition program for the ADN nurses to go directly into our BSN programs. We're working on agreements with the local hospitals so that the clinicals can overlap between those two programs. Those are the kinds of efforts that are going to be required if we're going to really make a dent in the workforce and make access available in an affordable way to our students here in the state of Texas. And granted, if you take four-year institutions and compare the dollar figure of appropriations that it takes for us to deliver a degree and compare those to community colleges, it will be way off balance. But we also don't have the option of taxing our local property owners. So we don't have that additional flow of income from the Texas taxpayer to complete those degrees. And so it's a little difficult in my mind to make those comparisons about affordability. Local community colleges are funded by the property owners in that region. And we don't tax our property owners. If we did, we would be taxing people from Dallas, from everywhere in the state of Texas, because that's where our students come from. But we can't do that. So I think in terms of affordability, there is a fear. There's a fear of duplication, despite the fact that the coordinating board has done a wonderful job of monitoring and regulating duplication in the state. I think there's a fear that some universities and some community colleges as well have invested a great deal of effort, a great deal of time, a great deal of money into developing programs that will be pushed aside or marginalized by duplication at institutions that we all felt, for one reason or another, and I really don't have the full explanation, for one reason or another felt we had different missions. Bottom line is, access to higher education and impact on the workforce is everyone's mission at this panel. Everyone's mission.
So it would seem then in certain areas there's a very high demand, and in other areas there may be collaboration and articulation agreements where it's not necessarily.
Exactly.
So maybe we're talking about a targeted thing.
Right.
Thank you.
David?
So I really appreciate your remarks, and I certainly appreciate the second bite of the apple on this report. I think we got an awful lot with that. There's a period of disruptive innovation in higher education that we're right in the middle of. And anyone that doesn't believe that just is not dealing with the reality. And there was a presentation on the Gartner hype cycle during our last time, and people thought MOOCs was going to be the latest, greatest thing, and now people sign up and never complete them. It seems to me that we have an 11-year track record with community colleges granting bachelor's degrees at least in 3 geographic locations. One was geographic specific, was driving, that was the lower Rio Grande Valley, really had students that needed access and didn't have access, couldn't afford to go off to Austin or Texas Tech or other places, and those institutions weren't coming in and providing the content, and as a distance, there's been, especially with Brazos-Ports, there was a subject specific. There was a local industry that says, we have the expertise here, we can train. So, Mr. Goldman, I guess a long way around to the question is, I don't see anything in your report criticizing those 3 programs or saying that there's other four-year institutions that now have got into that space and have crowded it out. It seems to me that those 3 programs are held in high regard, are very productive, and are serving the needs. So we have 3 examples that are all either geographic or subject specific that no one else got into those arenas as a 4-year institution and took on. So isn't that the model if we're going to expand this to other 4-year or to other community colleges, that we would say they have to be something specific that the articulation agreements or the partnerships or the online learning, this distance learning, wouldn't be able to take up? And I appreciate there's been a lot of movement on the part of the 4-year institutions into that with the articulation agreements. We've been champions of that. Certainly the partnerships, we'd like to support that. But I think in Dr. Israel's case, the cheapest place to park is not your place. It's actually in your own garage and do it online. Because they don't have to pay gas to get to your place, but then you're the second cheapest. I understand what you're saying. Did I read your report wrong, or there was no criticism at all of the 3 existing programs?
Thank you. I think that's a fair summary, and I think you heard from the panelists today that all of the stakeholders favor partnerships if they can be implemented.
Right.
But several of the panelists and several of the examples that you cited are cases where needs haven't been met through partnerships to date, and so the question is, what does the board want to do about that?
Yeah, and I guess I would close by simply saying that I agree with Dr. Israel. Affordability is a huge issue. I mean, the governor's challenged us to come up with a $10,000 bachelor's degree. That's not going to be a traditional tuition. And going to a traditional bricks and mortar 4-year institution that I was fortunate enough to enjoy, but not other students are going to be. It prepared me in a different way, but it didn't necessarily prepare me for workforce. The second is that we absolutely have to have academic rigor as job number 1. That cannot be compromised. So I hear what the higher education institutions are saying. We should never, ever accept mediocrity. Because if mediocrity is your goal, you will not always achieve it. And that's unacceptable. We have to have high quality, competency-based, subject and psychomotor-based learning that is self-paced for the individual, that they can move through this. A lot of your students, our non-traditional students, already have those skills, already have those knowledges. And I would challenge, and there was someone was doing a program where you could move through a 16-week semester in less than 16 weeks, but the tuition was the same. Where's the incentive to the student? So we have to be nimble about the way we do this, and moving forward, I think that the model for us to look at is what have we done the last 11 years, what seems to be working, and it would be geographic specific, it would be subject matter specific, and it would be something where a high quality program of instruction does not already exist in a 4-year institution, and they are unwilling to partner or provide articulation agreements or distance learning to learners across the entire state. So if Texas Tech, and I'll use you as an example, has developed a program in X, Y, and Z applied engineering, and they've spent a tremendous amount putting the faculty together, have a great program of instruction, and they're willing to provide those articulation agreements, the 2+2 program, distance learning across the state, and it's available at a reasonable cost, then there would be no reason to duplicate that, because Texas has already made that investment But if it wasn't available, i.e. in the cybersecurity, then let's have somebody invent it, but let's have one center of excellence for the whole state and share it, because it's all Texas. And if there's a disagreement with what I've said, I'd certainly be interested in comment.
Well, I'd like to respond by absolutely agreeing with you that much of the challenge is regional based, and I hope that as the coordinating board adopts the guidelines and make recommendations that you do sincerely take into account local needs and not provide a state-level policy that we all have to live with. Currently, we're authorized to offer up to 5 baccalaureate degrees. That's in legislation. We now offer 4. We're hitting the ceiling, and so we're saying, okay, what happens now? Do we wait, as I said, 2 more years for another study, 2 more years, 2 more years? Meanwhile, employers have said South Texas is not the place for us.
Well, that's a good point, and here's the question I would have for you. You've got 1 more to go that you don't have to go back to the legislature to get approved. Are you under consideration for one?
We are deep in deliberation. Since we only have 1, we're looking at 4 or 5 possibilities and which would be the best one.
And are you having ongoing conversations with our staff here about the fact that 1 is not enough so that we can provide a study and recommendation to the legislature to expand it beyond the 5?
Commissioner Paredes and I have had lots of discussions regarding this that
I guess that answer would be
more
yes.
than he wants to answer. We would like to see that ceiling removed and let us submit our proposals and let the coordinating board evaluate and determine whether we should move forward or not. I think 5 is a rather arbitrary ceiling.
Sada, did you have a question?
Mr. Chairman and the panel, I think it's a very interesting and healthy conversation we are having here. I see that there is a supply and demand issue that we are dealing. And also, as far as cost is concerned, I always believe that market normally takes care of it. My only question and inquiry is that getting a degree from community college and getting a degree from university, how does the employer looks at it? It's a brand issue. Is if a student coming out of a community college with the degree is seen differently than coming from a university environment? Anyone can.
I'll be glad to answer that. We have the only center of excellence in the state of Texas in nursing designated by the National League of Nursing out of the 100 nursing programs here. So we obviously have the rigor. We have the 30% of our nurses are PhD recipients. So our program, we have, and again, on your records, we have, if not the highest score on the examinations, the RN exam, it's always on the top in the state of Texas and has been for the last decade. The problem that we have is that all the hospitals are going to magnet status for nurses, which means that 80% of their nurses have to have a baccalaureate degree. And so it's an employer issue. So they see our rigor, they see our quality. In fact, I found some of the comments very interesting here because 1/3 of the faculty in our higher education center teaching for the universities are from our faculty. And TWU 4 years ago came and took 7 of my nursing faculty for their program. So I had to, I'm glad I'm not in a union state. I had to give special stipends to keep my own nurses from universities rating them. So in some areas, the employers absolutely see the quality. Who don't see the quality are some parents, and the parents see that a university is a better a degree than and community colleges still have a little bit of a stigma and with the parents in our community. I'd like to say that, and I'm proud, that our football team has never lost a game. Okay.
I would like to.
We don't have a football team. Okay.
I think it's more of an issue of we've not done a successful job of marketing community colleges and the efficiencies, affordability. We talk about those things. We don't talk about the rigor a lot when we're marketing community colleges, but I liken it to what we used to think about a degree from University of Phoenix, where it was then and where it is now. So the market demand generally drives that. An associate's degree in an industry where they need you right away is as credible as a four-year institution degree. So it kind of depends. It's all kind of local. Chairman, while I do have the mic, you addressed facility efficiencies a moment ago as an issue, and we're having to look at Tarrant County College. We're having to look at that closely. But what we have found historically is that we schedule classes based on perceived conveniences versus demand of instruction. So we're kind of looking at that differently. I remember this body challenging the four-year institutions a while back about facility usage. So we're using software like Ad Astra that takes it away, the human element out, and it uses, size, space, and availability. So that's helped us a lot. We're looking at off-hour courses. Dr. Israel talked about weekend college. We've had weekend college on our books for a while. When we took a close examination of it, we found that we were offering weekend courses. It wasn't weekend college. So we changed that, and this fall we're actually rolling into weekend college. The third would be the virtual campus. You talked about MOOCs and other things like that, but we know there's a balance between in-class and out-of-class. So our TCC Connect component is looking closely at that. Another vehicle that we've not talked a lot about today because it wasn't on this panel, but dual credit offerings, early college, high school. So there are some particular kind of niche opportunities that we find at Tarrant County College. And then lastly, to your point, Chairman, yes, ultimately the politics are local. And for many of us, upon being agreed to by way of creation in these markets, we made unofficial pacts with not only the residents of the county, but with the existing institutions about staying in your lane. But we're finding things to be different, and we're getting understanding. But I think that's why the partnerships work for us, is that we all kind of agreed in a gentleman's kind of way early on that this would be our fit by way of mission. But as things change, we're finding that our partners are willing to change as well.
Janelle.
So I want to commend Mr. Gates and Dr. Murray because so Tarleton began being very visionary before it was cool, and I'm particularly impressed with what they've done in Waco. Again, this is a very large community without a public institution for a four-year college, and they've addressed a huge need there. And with Mr. Gates and with TCC, they have broadened their base by really focusing on high school, focusing on the entry level. So the ability to collaborate is so great that I don't want to lose our opportunities there. And I agree with you, David. I think that we need to first look at those relationships. And I just would be really interested, and you're welcome to name drop, which four-year universities have turned you down, Dr. Reed, and let's see, is it Dr. Israel? Yes. Which four-year universities have turned you down for partnerships? UNT?
Yes. No.
University of Dallas?
Wait, University of North Texas is part of our higher education center, and they're doing wonderful things in criminal justice, and they're doing wonderful things in psychology, and for business, it's UTD. I don't want to go through all our universities.
Right. But they've turned you down for this program.
For cybersecurity. And I want to get back to the nursing. Where is a nursing program? The closest nursing program is in Denton or at UNT Health Sciences in Fort Worth. No one's going to be able in the Metroplex to drive there. And if they want to take it online...
Did you approach UTA about they have satellite campuses everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's great. and we have talked several years ago to UTA. Their online course, and I'm sure they'll be talking about it. Again, let them reduce the costs. I'd like that.
Okay,
It's an affordability issue for the residents in my community, and it's getting to be much more of an issue. They're not going to go and get the degrees that they need, and we're going to drive up the costs of the hospitals. I chair I just got off at a medical center of Plano. I did medical malpractice defense for 19 years for the HCA system. My law firm's still doing that for them. I'm well versed in the healthcare field. They are going out. Is there a shortage in Collin County for nurses right now? No. Why? They're driving up their costs because they have to go outside to get their nurses. We can't find enough nurses in Texas or in our region, in Blue Ridge, in Farmersville, and so forth. It's a cost issue. Reduce your costs. You all are talking about affordability, reduce your costs. And the comment about the local property tax, it's an issue of productivity. Our faculty teach 5 to 6 courses. How many courses are being taught at the university level and online? What's the productivity? No one wants to talk about these issues. Productivity. No one wants to talk about the issue of having full-time faculty from the universities teach on the weekend. Well, let's talk about some of these real difficult issues and not keep pushing things under the rug.
You won't find many on this panel, on this board, that disagree with you on productivity, I promise. But we got a little ways away from my question.
Okay.
So,
yes, we've approached all
Dr.
the universities.
Reed, tell me did Pan Am University, Texas A&M turn you down for collaborative programs? And doesn't UT have a campus in Harlingen or in South Texas? Sorry for all the UT people. I may have the wrong town.
UT Pan American has been a great partner, and when we approached them about this, they said, "Go, my child, do it. We have other areas we have to focus on."
That's what I wanted to know.
Universities also have their turf issues as community colleges. We would love to have an A&M campus in South Texas. We'd love Texas Tech to be down there.
Okay.
If I talk to A&M, it's on the front page of the Monitor the next morning.
Well, I can give you a phone number you could call. No
I
one
know
will
him
know.
personally.
All right.
Get him down here.
Any other questions from the committee? Commissioner?
Just for the general information, Dr. Reed, can you tell us what the differential is in cost between signing up for a baccalaureate program and an associate's degree?
We have a very small tuition differential, and I apologize, I don't remember the amount. It's not a tremendous amount, maybe $20 an hour additional. But comparing it with our neighboring university, our tuition is maybe 40% of the university. We can graduate a baccalaureate degree for $10,000, not with textbooks, but with tuition.
And how about the employment of your graduates?
Fabulous employment, well over 95%. Many of the students who come into the program have completed an applied science degree with us. They are working in industry. They are going part-time. They already have a job. They graduate from us, and they get a very significant career bump. So no problem with placement.
To that point, do you have any idea what percentage follow that kind of path that you talked about? They're already employed and coming back for that?
Well over 90% of them.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to mention or remind everyone that some of the $10,000 baccalaureate degrees on the books are the partnerships between Tarrant County College and Tarleton State University.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the only way you can make it.
Any other questions from the committee? All right. Mr. Goldman, are we going to shift panels now? Is
Yes,
that
I'd
the
like
plan?
to thank very much the
Thank
first
you.
panel and to invite the second panel stakeholders to join me up here at the podium.
Oh, nice meeting both of you. Send your faculty down to work with us. Why don't you look at South Texas? You've been through a number of chancellors, and you look and you never come back.
Good discussion. That's
Share a microphone. Great.
everybody protected.
The water because I spilled it on the seat next to me already. Oh no. So we're in good shape. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. I don't do this. Ever.
Okay, we'll just put it over here. Let them know that you're going to leave it, and we'll put it on the table here or pass it up to them.
Take a deep breath. You're here for a reason. That's right. That means we'd have to look up. And this works by pushing.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, that's good. All right. Well, yes, I actually give you this one at a 2.5 and this one at 3.5. So I'm not holding you to the second, but I think it was really good.
I tried to write it. I don't know if it's going to come out to be.
I didn't even have a speech. I just wrote talking points. And
Excellent.
I wrote them in size 14 font, which usually gets me through 5 minutes.
Yeah.
At least I got the memo about the eyewear.
Money. Yeah, I'll bet you didn't either. Enjoy the water.
Not having no such thing as two grams in this area.
Oh, yeah.
Bottom line. Right now, the number we're graduating will take us.
Goldman, we ready? Ready to begin?
Thanks very much. I'd like to welcome our second panel. We've asked the second panel to focus primarily on issues related to nursing, but same ground rules apply. We've let the panelists know that they're also welcome to make comments about the applied sciences field along the way as well. So I'd like to start off the panel with Dr. Betty Young, who's the president of Coleman College in the Houston Community College system.
Good morning, Chairman and committee. Thank you all for giving us the opportunity to come today and to talk to you about this very important topic to us. I am at Houston Community College, Coleman College for Health Sciences, located inside the Texas Medical Center, which is the largest medical center in the world. And so our situation is somewhat unique because of our location. We're also one of the few colleges in the nation that is a standalone health science college that is a community college. And so we offer 20-some health science programs, including the nursing program, and we have over 4,100 students that we do that for. So I'm here this morning because really our students and our employers in the Houston area really need you and need you to consider this issue seriously and to act in a way that will help us be able to meet the needs of both of our students and of our employers. Today, community colleges are still graduating about 60% of all RNs, and so we're going strong. The big issue really is the magnet status for us in the community college. In the Houston area, while nationally there are only 7% of hospitals that are magnet status, in Houston, in the Texas Medical Center, it's 100% that are either magnet status or in the process of becoming magnet status. And of course that means that 80% of the bedside nurses have to have a bachelor's degree by 2020. We're still graduating 60% of all of our nurses today from associate degree nursing programs. At the current rate of degree completion, that is associate degree RNs to BSNs, at the current rate, it would take us over 30 years to get everybody to where we need them to be with a bachelor's degree. There just aren't enough seats. There aren't enough seamless pathways, providing opportunities for the students to get what they need, and ultimately for our employers. So this is a big Texas-size problem that we have to solve. But we have ways of solving that. You've heard some of them this morning. I don't think there's a single one way to answer this problem. We have partnerships with many partners today, with our university partners, and they work very well. They just don't work for everyone. I'm going to tell you my story. I was 28 years old. I had not gone to college, divorced, single parent, trying to figure out how I was going to get ahead in my life. And I can tell you that but for the community college, I wouldn't be sitting here before you today. It really provided the opportunity for me, and that's why I'm here to advocate on behalf of our students. First-generation students, English as a second language students, they really look to the community college as a place where they can get their start. And it's difficult for them sometimes to leave the community college and go on to another environment to complete a degree. So that's the reason I'm asking for you to consider this. Now, I'm going to address mission creep very briefly, because everybody talks about that. But I also want to say about that is that we, as a nation, had community and technical and junior colleges for many years. And over time, that evolved into comprehensive community colleges. We did not see a decrease in the number of students going to university. Matter of fact, we've seen an increase, and we've seen an increase in competition of students wanting to go to those universities. So expanding access has never decreased enrollment in any of our institutions. So I'm asking you to consider this as just another opportunity to create more opportunity for our students, for the citizens of Texas, to have a great education and a great career path. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Young. Now I'd like to recognize Dr. Carl Stockton, who's Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost at the University of Houston, Clear Lake.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner, board members. I was asked to approach this group today to talk about a program that we just started at the University of Houston, Clear Lake. It's a community college-university partnership for an RN to BSN program. As you know, UH Clear Lake has been an upper-level institution for 40 years, and we know how to do seamless transitions where students do not lose credits coming from the community college into the university. A couple of years ago, we were approached by the Chancellor for San Jacinto College System, Dr. Brenda Halyard, about having a seamless pathway for students to go from the Associate's RN degree program to a BSN program. As a matter of fact, she was a very strong advocate for the university, for us to go forward to the University of Houston system to get this degree. On October 25th, 2013, less than a year ago, the coordinating board approved our RN to BSN program, and we will have our first cohort this fall, and so we're very excited about that. The current program allows students at the community colleges to complete their associate's degree and RN certification Most of the programs were at 72 hours, and then they come to UH Clear Lake, and 48 hours later, they finish their baccalaureate degree in nursing. So they still can complete that 4-year degree in 120 hours and meet all the requirements of SACS and the state requirements. Our program is designed to meet the workforce with higher level critical thinking skills, leadership, and case management skills. And then I read the 124-page RAND report from front to back, and one of the things that was noted is this is the type of critical thinking skills that the employers are seeking feedback for their baccalaureate degree nursing students. The cost to come to UHCL is very minimal compared to traditional 4-year baccalaureate degrees. The students would have completed their clinical skills through the Associate's Degree RN program. So the cost for us is primarily hiring the nursing faculty. And we've hired at this point 2 PhD-prepared nurses to lead the program. Programs like this also can be accredited, and we are going to seek accreditation. We have to go through a 1-year process to collect data, but we are going to seek accreditation from one of the national accrediting agencies. We've received numerous applications from a number of the area community colleges, both inside of Texas and outside of Texas. Just very quickly, I just got the 1-minute sign. I was told 3 to 5 minutes. So, for example, I won't read all of them, but San Jac, Texas Tech, College of the Mainland, Texas Southern, Houston Community College, Brazosport, Galveston, Alvin Community College, El Paso, UT Arlington, Lee College, Blinn College, the list goes on and on and on. And we've already made a commitment that as we get more and more students, we will provide the resources for those students to get in and be successful in the program. We also have automatic transfer scholarships that we provide for students. All students that complete the associate's degree at the community colleges and meet certain requirements get an automatic scholarship, automatic transfer scholarships. They don't even have to apply. We didn't come to the state to ask for more money. We took it out of our own budget, and it's been a very successful program. So that's one of our ways to offset the cost of the difference between the 2-year and 4-year institutions. Finally, let me kind of finish up on a couple of things that I've seen in the RAND report. And people talk about degree creep. Even some of the community colleges, and I quote, representatives from some community colleges expressed concern that the movement towards BSN represent degree creep and that the emphasis might detract from the successful ADN programs that have already been achieved. Upgrading the education of existing nurses with the final 12 to 18 months of coursework is much more efficient, quote unquote. According to both community colleges and universities in the Texas market for online RN to BSN programs, those ensure that the workforce needs can be met, and that was quoted in the RAND report. So finally, with my time running out, I've provided you with a kind of a brochure of the program, and I'd like to leave you what's possible in a partnership between a university and a community college. We've had a very successful long-term collaboration with our 9 area community colleges that we serve, and you can see an ad that went in the paper that talks about get your BSN between the university and San Jacinto Community College, but we're serving all the other community colleges. And finally, I have 3 recommendations for the board. Number 1, community colleges to expand the capacity of their ADN programs so that we can meet the rising demand for registered nurses. If there's such a nursing shortage, why don't we increase that pipeline, number 1. Number 2, encourage articulation agreements and collaborations between community colleges and universities for RN to BSN programs. And number 3, approve more doctoral programs in nursing so that we can meet the workforce demand at the universities and provide more doctorate prepared nurses. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Stockton. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Joe May, who's the Chancellor of the Dallas Community College District.
Well, good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here today, Commissioner and members of the board. I'm, as many of you know, I'm new as Chancellor of the Dallas County Community College District. I've been there just a little over 100 days, and when approached with this opportunity, I looked at the report and wanted to come and talk with you because, for me personally, I don't think there's a more important issue than how we deal with the workforce needs of our communities in our state as we face challenges. It was said earlier, we find that 53% of our employers are indicating that they cannot find the skilled workforce they need to be competitive today, and 100% of healthcare providers indicate that they cannot find the people that they need in order to meet the needs. So as we talk about this issue, I come here as a Chancellor of the District, but in previous life I was State Director of Vocational Education in 2 states, State Director of Perkins Program in 2 states, State Director of Adult Education in 1 state. So I come with a real focus on how we can take people and get them the skills that they need in order to be competitive and support and grow not only primary jobs in our community, but improve the quality of life. And as I looked at the issue of baccalaureate, I really think that it's come about because of this problem of needs that aren't being addressed. And I agree wholeheartedly with my colleagues who spoke earlier that we have to find every way to meet those needs, including outstanding partnerships, but also look at how we can grow our own where that need is not being met. Now, we're pleased with the Dallas County Community College District that we have a great relationship with the University of Texas at Arlington with our ADN to BSN program. And I'm well aware of the numbers. As we've seen since 2010, the doubling of the number of nursing vacancies in the Dallas area, going from 4.1% to 8.1% over that period of time. And we're not really gaining ground on that. So I think that we need to look continue to look carefully as even these solutions, are they going to be enough in the long run? Because we wouldn't hesitate to come back with recommendations to add baccalaureate degrees or others if we felt that that was a solution to best meet those needs. We believe that right now that the relationship that's there, we have 60% of our students that were admitted into our ADN program this year through El Centro that have been co-admitted to University of Texas at Arlington. They'll start that once they get the degree as 13 months to the point that they can earn the baccalaureate degree. So we're going to be watching that carefully to see how we can in fact address that need and expand it, while at the same time keeping our eyes very focused on the workforce that's there. And we just ask for your assistance as we look at these partnerships to make certain that the partnerships are efficient and watching the number of hours that students take, because one of the costs that often gets overlooked is that they're picking up additional hours after transfer. And as said earlier, we want to make sure that they're graduating with that 120 credit hour time frame. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. May. I think you will remember that we've all heard quite a lot about the University of Texas at Arlington's nursing program, in particular the RN to BSN program. So we're very pleased to have with us Dr. Jennifer Gray, who's the interim dean of the College of Nursing there.
Dr. Mancini sends her regrets. She was not able to be with you again today. I think one of the things that I think is really essential for us to remember as we think about the health of Texans, there are 2 things that we need. One is, yes, in fact, we do need to increase the proportion of nurses who are baccalaureate prepared. That helps us have a more educated workforce to meet the complex health needs. But on the other hand, the thing that has not been addressed to as great an extent is the fact that we also need to increase just the number of nurses and people coming into nursing for the first time. And as Dr. Mancini had talked to you about, one of the things that I think we have been able to do is that because we do have multiple partnerships, the community colleges, the healthcare employers. In fact, we have active partnerships with 340 healthcare employers in Texas. Now, only 64% of the RNs in Texas actually work in a hospital, and so our partners extend well beyond acute care hospitals. 23 of those, in fact, acute care hospitals have worked with us to provide clinical site placement for a cohort of students. So those students are in our baccalaureate program, They are taking the very same coursework that students on campus take. They're taking it online. And then every weekend, they are doing their clinicals with UTA-provided instructors at their particular hospital. And so that has allowed us to take our pre-licensure program from less than 200 graduates in 2009 to 435 in this academic year. And so I think that is something that we can certainly work on. And Dr. Israel, 2 of those are actually in Collin County. So we are trying to reach out to that Collin County area as well. One of the great challenges that we'll face associate degree programs as they move into, if they choose to move into providing baccalaureate programs, will be national accreditation. National accreditation in nursing is provided by a different accrediting agent when you are a baccalaureate program. That program requires your chief nursing administrator of the program to hold a doctoral degree. Of the 43 currently accredited with the other accrediting body, the 43 ADN programs in Texas that are accredited with the other accrediting body, only 12 of them, their nursing administrator holds a doctoral degree. And so there is a gap there that would have to be filled. UT Arlington also has a PhD program and a DNP program. And I promise you, we're not moving PhD students through the pipeline that quickly. And so we're not going to be able to meet that kind of need in that area. So that would be one critical element that I think would require additional resources. And I would argue that it'd be better to work with the existing state universities such as UT Arlington, Texas Tech, and others who have expanded our program. I don't believe the issue is RN to BSN. RN to BSN, any nurse in Texas and beyond who has a computer and internet access can complete an RN to BSN completion program. There are several online, high quality accredited programs that provide that RN to BSN. And so I don't think that is the issue. I think my recommendations really come down to about 3 different ones. One is that with those successful baccalaureate programs that have been offered at community colleges, I think a more thorough cost analysis of what it is required to bring that program up to that level is necessary. I believe it was Dr. Reed indicated there was only $1.5 million of formula funding that was used, but I expect that they used a lot of institutional resources well beyond that 1.5 to move to be able to offer the baccalaureate program. My second recommendation would be your continued support for outcome-based funding, such as the nurse shortage reduction program. And then the last would be that you would work with us to come up with innovative ways to actually allow healthcare employers to support PhD students while they're in a program and expand the nurse loan forgiveness program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. Now I'd like to pass the microphone to Professor Marlene Metter, who is a professor of nursing at Austin Community College.
Is this on? Oh, it is. Good morning, and thank you for inviting us to interact with you at this most pivotal time in nursing education. As one of the previous speakers mentioned, the Institute of Medicine has issued a recommendation that 80% of the nursing staff in hospitals and other acute care settings attain a BSN. And I would like to speak to those individuals who are already RN prepared nurses in our acute care settings who are having to come back for their education after many, many years in order to maintain their status and to move forward in the profession. And these are not the students who are going to be as willing to adapt to an online format. In Central Texas, in Austin Community College, graduates approximately 300 students a year. There are not enough slots to meet those needs, much less the 8,000 RN prepared but not BSN currently practicing in Central Texas. It would be an equitable decision to choose to allow Austin Community College and the other community colleges where it's a good fit for those programs to have an RN to BSN reach. I want to speak very briefly to the issue of faculty. I am proud to say that Austin Community College currently has 4 doctoral prepared faculty members, and we have 9 students in PhD and doctoral programs at this time as our faculty members. I'm one of them. We will meet the needs, we will meet the accreditation if we are given the opportunity to present this program to our students, to the citizens of Austin. And an equitable education for our students is what is necessary. We partner currently with UT Arlington. We are proud. We have a fabulous success rates in our students who have graduated from ACC and moved forward into those other articulation programs. We don't want to lose that. We wouldn't jeopardize that for anything. Please don't hold this against me. I had the privilege of speaking to Dr. Scheich in the Florida Education and because I wanted to get some background information. Florida has done this longer than anyone else. And they have seen an increase in students, up to 15% of their students that graduate from the community college with their baccalaureate move forward for a master's and PhD. I think that's pretty impressive. I wish I had the statistics for how many people move from their bachelor's from a major university in Texas into the master's and PhD. One of the anecdotal comments she had to say on that was, because a community college can provide an equitable, affordable education, the students do not have the extensive student loans to pay back. They then can work the average wage, $65,000 a year. They can afford to go on to get their master's and beyond. They also discovered that their community college-based educators were so enlightened and so encouraged that they themselves went back for their PhDs. So again, the universities reaped extra benefits from having a community college-based BSN. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Metter. I would like to turn now to Dr. Eileen Breslin, who's Dean and Professor on the HSC Executive Council, the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I'm speaking on behalf of our Health Science Center faculty. We really believe that nurses should achieve the highest levels of education and training through improved educational systems that promote seamless academic progression. This is a goal, as you know, of the Institute of Medicine's report in 2010. One of the key steps in this process is to allow and really embrace greater numbers of nursing who are entering the workforce to really progress in their careers earlier. One of the challenges we all face within the nursing profession is the aging of the workforce. So the question before us is how do we get more individuals into baccalaureate nursing programs through a variety of ways in a way that really enhances whatever the students' needs are at the moment. We know that Texas has a very healthy post-secondary education sector. We have currently 32,770 students. That's 32,770 students enrolled in pre-licensure and RN to BSN programs in the state's public and private university systems. And in fact, the Robert Wood Nursing Foundation partnered with the Tri-Council in Nursing, which is the Organization of Nurse Execs, the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, the National League for Nursing, and the American Nurses Association to fund what we call academic progression in nursing. And the state of Texas is privileged to have one of those partnership agreements, which is giving us research that's telling us that what we currently have is working in the state through our projects. We currently have on-site and online offerings and a number of baccalaureate degree programs available to the community colleges, which is really greatly expanded through these 3+1 programs, and you heard about one of those today. Many of these students do appreciate online learning, which really does provide direct access and flexible scheduling for the location-bound students. And one of the challenges is even though you are in the online programs, our accrediting program agency does require clinical education at the baccalaureate level. So they do require in that last year an understanding of population-based health, evidence-based practice, and leadership activities at the baccalaureate level. So it does require clinical opportunities. We believe that the universities and colleges are vital partners in the quest to expand baccalaureate degree access. By promoting university and community college partnerships, students are given access to the full range of public and private baccalaureate opportunities. Without a thoughtful analysis of the entire post-secondary system, for both the public and the private sector, the community college's entry into baccalaureate degree award-winning arena could unravel some of the partnerships if we've not done them carefully and thoughtfully. We have to consider the higher costs for faculty salaries, the expanded library holdings, upgrades to the equipment, the simulation centers, and other teaching tools may need to be acquired. But there also has to be consideration of increased costs for mentoring, counseling, and support services for those to mitigate potential student attrition. And in light of the current faculty shortage, which you've heard to here today, and I have spoken to this august body before about the faculty nursing shortage, placing students in clinical settings also is a real tension for all of us. We really do have to be careful about what kind of situations we are placing our students in. I want to share with you that the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, which represents the baccalaureate and higher degree nursing programs in the nation, has a position statement and has been on record since 2005, so almost a decade. And as you consider this, we think that, one, offering the baccalaureate degree at a community college is an expansion of the mission, so they must undergo the same scrutiny as other four-year institutions by regional accrediting bodies to ensure that they meet the same standards, such as the Scientific and Liberal Education Foundations, as a four-year granting degree institution. The second is that the community colleges must maintain programmatic integrity of quality standards as set forth by my colleague here and by nursing specialized accreditation agencies. And third, that the community colleges must integrate the essential elements of liberal education, professional values, core competencies, core knowledge, and role developed through that upper nursing division major. So as the nursing shortage intensifies, and you've all heard this and we're all concerned about it, there has been and will be increasing stress on nursing education resources. There will be increasing pressure for those of us who do provide a baccalaureate degree, and we at our Health Science Center, since I've been in dean the last 6 years, has had almost a 40% increase in our undergraduate baccalaureate program, and I can tell you that our physical space is more than maxed out, and as is our, everything. We're at the top of our game, and our faculty do teach mornings, evenings, weekends. And so we are utilizing every resource that's available. But we have to be creative as we think about how do we begin to have more of these opportunities to prepare more nurses nationwide, and Texas is really seen nationally as a thought leader in creating some of these partnerships. So I would urge you to think about how do we look at it generally, not only just looking at increasing partnerships, but actually expanding the capacity in baccalaureate nursing education through expansion of our basic programs, which allows students to get into the programs sooner and quicker. We have a lot of evidence that says that those who get their baccalaureate degrees earlier are more likely to go on for graduate education. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I'll turn it back to the committee members for your discussion.
Thank you. And panel, thank you all very much for your input and insight. So committee members, we'll open it up for questions from this group. Janelle.
Well, thank you so much. So, Dr. Gray, is there an area of Texas you would not open a program in?
If we had with a partner there, we would be happy to go there. In fact, we are actually rather locally. Brookhaven Community College has already reached out to us that would we offer our RN to BSN on site for the students that may not want an online option, and we'll be able to do that. And so I think we are very open to looking at other placements around the state.
So when you talk about cost, are the costs somewhat balanced out, or tell us how you actually how you do this first.
Right. We are able to balance the cost of that because our university has been a very strong supporter and created the systems that were necessary. It doesn't just happen in nursing. It happens in registration, completion of, degree completion. Every area of the university is affected. And so they've been a very strong supporter. They've also been willing to share back with the college some of the gains that we have received in tuition. And that has allowed nursing, along with nursing shortage reduction funds, the legislative funds that we received over a 4-year period, to be able to do the infrastructure to be able to create the opportunities in other locations. Because of having that infrastructure, we can now expand with a great economy of scale. For example, if Brookhaven can have 30 students at their site on campus, we would be able to provide that program and break even, or even bring a little profit in that we could actually provide for resources.
So compared to a community college price, how do your prices compare?
That's an excellent question. I've not looked at community college prices lately. We do have with our academic partnership model, we are able to offer some reduction in tuition, and those programs do have a set price that is a little less than what it would cost for them to come on campus. Again, they're not using a lot of the campus resources that we might provide for our on-campus students.
So I work for a very large employer who pays for that education.
Yes.
Do you see that across the state a lot?
Yes, we do. And one of the things that we are seeing students do, and one of the things that has been nice about our RN to BSN program, its dynamic scheduling allows students to step on and off. And so maybe they've used up their employer benefit for this calendar year, and so they may step off for 5 weeks, or maybe they want to be off in the summer with their children or take the Christmas time off. But then they can come right back on, not lose momentum, and continue and finish the program. In fact, 3 of our faculty have just completed a study of about 4,000 of our RN to BSN students. It's about to be published, and Dr. Mancini is the lead author, and they are been able to show that the persistence rate for the online and on campus are the very same. And so we are able to ensure that we are making a good investment when we have additional students in our programs.
In these highly competitive metroplex kind of hospitals, education reimbursement is very common. So I have not found any of the employers that were not able to cover the RN to BSN programs. So really the cost in even Collin County would be covered by employers that are requesting the BSN for the magnet programs.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'd like to make a point that that's true if they are employed, but our new graduates right now are unable to get that employment because the hospitals, magnet status hospitals, are not hiring the associate degree nurse. Now, what they have told us, and I sit on the Chief Nurse Council at the Texas Medical Center, is that if we had that completion program, they would view that student as in the bachelor's degree program coming through our associate degree program. And as long as they were continuing post-graduation and licensure, they would go ahead and hire them, understanding that they're in that pathway. So right now, our students are really experiencing underemployment because they're not able to get the jobs in the normal places that they have worked over the many years we've produced nurses in Houston.
Well, there are many places that nurses work that are not acute care hospitals, though, and there are many job openings.
Yes, I agree.
It's not acute care hospitals.
Right, and usually there's some salary differential for those new graduates who go to the LTACs or the other kind.
But it's a little disingenuous to say underemployed when there are really jobs out there.
There are jobs, yes. The salary differential is the difference.
Chairman.
Let's go at this a little different. Go ahead.
Dean Gray, I believe I heard you say just a moment ago that the completion rates for online programs are the same as the completion rates for regular conventional
correct.
face-to-face programs?
That's correct. As you all have acknowledged,
What are those completion rates?
we actually have about 100%, 90-something percent can complete in maybe an slightly extended period of time. And one of the things that we did see in this study is that in online programs, they did actually take a little longer, and it was because they'd had that flexibility to work around the rest of their life.
How do you explain that extraordinary success rate? Because the data at the national level are that online programs have much lower completion rates than conventional face-to-face
I believe
programs.
it's the individual attention that we're able to give to students. And also we've invested in some of our infrastructure is student success. And so we have 3 full-time faculty who are dedicated just to providing additional assistance to a student that is struggling with a particular area of content. And so that has been a very critical element in students still feeling like they're having personal connection to someone and that someone's paying attention to their progress. And I believe that's where you find those extraordinary faculty that are invested in their students. One of the things that I think is a little bit misleading when you hear about the size of our RN to BSN program is that, how would you feel as a student in a class of 400 students? Well, the student's experience is not that they're in a class of 400 students. The materials are available to all 400 of them in the learning management system. But that student is on a discussion board with a qualified nurse instructor, master's prepared, who is guiding their discussion, grading their work, and working with them very closely. And so while it has the advantage of being scalable, but at the same time has the advantage of being able to provide that individual attention.
Thank you.
Dr. Gray, your program has received lauds and honors for as long as I can remember hearing about it. But I want to go back to tuition costs.
Yes.
I understand that you may not check community college tuition. What is the tuition for your program? Ballpark.
Let me ask my colleague that I brought with me.
In American dollars.
What? Is that upper division? Okay, for the upper 2 years. Of course, those students are obviously paying university tuition the first 2 years, but those last 2 years for pre-licensure is about $8,000. We have offered an RN to BSN program right now is around $7,000.
Okay. Now, Dr. May, you indicated that you have a great relationship with UNT. What is the cost? What again?
For the first 2 years for the ADN is $3,120 for the degree, not counting books.
Okay.
There are a few fees associated with that, but very minor.
So $3,000.
We charge $52 a credit hour for our nursing. Right.
So $3,000 for the first 2 and $7,000 or $8,000 for the second 2.
Right.
Okay.
We are really looking at being able to provide the $10,000 degree. Our university is very committed to that.
Dr. Meter, is that correct? What?
It won't be doctor for 3 more years.
Okay. Well, Professor Meter.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you? What are your fees?
I was privileged to co-author the white paper proposal for Austin Community College's RN to BSN, and we came out with $4,350 for the RN to BSN.
Okay.
And that includes library. That includes all of the faculty fee, all of the fees except for books.
Say the number again, please.
$4,350. I know that's a somewhat precise number, but that was our range that we were given when we did the statistics.
Okay, but that's for the RN to BSN. That's for the last 2 years.
That's the last.
Is that per year?
Our
or for
dean
the 2
is
years?
here. I can ask her if she knows.
Right.
Okay, so we're still under the $10,000. It's about $5,000, including uniforms.
Yes, sir.
At UH Clear Lake, because we give automatic transfer scholarships for students that finish the associate RN, and because they only have to take the remaining 48 hours at the university, we give $2,000 in that automatic transfer scholarship if they meet a certain grade point average coming out of the two-year colleges. So for us, and if a student goes full-time and finishes that program in roughly 3 semesters, it's about $6,000 minus the $2,000 that we give them for automatic transfer scholarship if they meet that requirement. So it's around $4,000, maybe $4,200 when all's said and done for our program.
May I ask a question?
Sure, I normally ask them, but you go ahead this time.
I don't know the rules. I'm sorry. I appreciate and am really interested in this $2,000 scholarship, and I'm wondering where that money comes from, because community college comes from the community, and I was wondering if that is a state funding that they are allowed to give, or where does the $2,000 come from?
We give that as part of our scholarship, where we get our money from our scholarship program. We started that program in 2009 for all students that transfer to UH Clear Lake with an associate's degree from any of the state community colleges. And in 2009, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board recognized that and gave us an award, a gold award, for that transfer scholarship program. And we didn't come to the state or anybody to ask for that. And it benefits the students, but also increases our enrollment, which increases formula funding into the university. So it was a long discussion to convince our CFO that was a good model, but it works. So thank you.
I have one more question. We have people that provide are looking at expanding the community colleges. What are your thoughts as far as rigor? Those of you at the university, do you anticipate that if there are BSN programs at community college, will they have the same rigor that you have as a university?
I'll take a stab at that. I believe that they will need to have that kind of rigor for them to maintain their NCLEX standards or their pass scores, and they will also have to have that kind of rigor to get a national accreditation. And so they will be able to
So it's not an option, really. The rigor's not an option.
They're going to have the rigor.
Okay.
And so that's why there will have to be the investment in infrastructure and the additional resources to probably make that happen.
Okay.
I'd like to remind the group, too, that the RN, they are licensed nurses. These folks have already been through the nursing curriculum and hold the same license as the bachelor prepared nurse. They just don't have the bachelor credential required now by many of our employers. So the rigor is already in our programs in order for them to accomplish that. The other thing that I'd like to say is, for example, Houston Community College, since we're a member of the Texas Medical Center, our library is the same library as UT, TWU, Prairie View, because it is the Texas Medical Center library. So, there are ways in which the resources, we have access to resources our students need. And our program director is already qualified. Our faculty are already at that standard. We don't hire faculty at a standard less than would be required for a bachelor's degree program as well. The third thing I'd like to say is that we're looking at a program that would include a residency. One thing we hear from all of our employers, whether you hire they call them baby nurses at the hospital, hire an associate degree graduate or a BSN graduate, is that they really don't have quite the level of experience because they're baby nurses. They just have graduated from a program. They really need that first 6 months on the job to become a valued employee to that institution. So we're looking at a residency program that would allow the students to complete those 3 nursing courses required while they're in a practice setting that would improve their ability to be hired, but also, more importantly, improve their skills and, most importantly, improve patient safety.
Thank you.
David, did you have some?
Yeah.
So I appreciate your presentations, and I've seen several of you present before, and you're obviously doing some very innovative things. I think, Dr. Gray, I'm going to quote you on a statistic. Did you say that 64% of the RNs in Texas are hospital-based?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, here we have a trade association that comes up with this highly controversial thing called magnet status, which is supposed to be the center of excellence. And believe me, the doctors and the hospitals did the same thing to themselves in the past.
Correct.
And it's this law of unintended consequences now that there's an arms race that if your hospital isn't magnet status, the one across the street is, you're not high quality. And the problem is that most of our mid-career nurses are RNs who are extremely skilled, as opposed to the baby nurse, as you described it, who can find a job, but it won't be inside that hospital unless they take additional costs, not necessarily direct costs and tuition if there's tuition, but somebody's paying for the tuition, somebody's paying for the faculty, somebody's paying for the training, and it's certainly time away from the bedside in this whole thing. And so I'm really wondering, how is the state served by this rush to this magnet status, which is no science that proves we get better outcomes or that we lower costs. In fact, costs, I can tell, go up. And I have huge dissatisfaction in the hospitals I practice in with the nurses who are being forced into this system, and they say the system doesn't make anything improved. And yet this is all being driven without any evidence-based medicine or evidence-based nursing. I've read your literature. It seems to be, at least in the aggregate, I haven't read it in great depth, it seems to be very controversial about this magnet status, offering that new paradigm. The medical schools did it to themselves with 10 years ago calling for a 30% enrollment.
Right.
We know, we've been studying that. Now we don't have enough graduate medical education slots. Duh. 10 years later, we've got a 31% uptick, and now we're going to export new MDs and DOs who can't find a residency in the state. How does that serve the state, the taxpayers, and the students?
I'm going to counter-argue with you because there is evidence. Aiken's study, I can't quote them all, but there have been probably 8 or 9 studies that have demonstrated a decrease in mortality, decrease in length of stay in hospitals that had a higher proportion of BSN-prepared nurses. And so there is some evidence, and that is what Magnet is hanging on to. But there is some misunderstanding about Magnet as well. When you talk to people at the National Office for Magnet's credentialing, the standard is not that every magnet facility has to have 80% to be magnet. They have to be moving in that direction. And so it's not just, it's not something that has to be done by the time that they be able to get magnet status. They have to have a plan and show how they're moving in that direction. And so I think some hospitals, because they maybe already are magnet and don't want to go backward on that, or that's why they are choosing to only hire BSNs. We're experiencing similar things as Dr. Young, in that what we are seeing in the Metroplex is that if an associate degree nurse is already through the professional pathways program or some other way affiliated with the university and moving forward with their baccalaureate degree, then they are employable at many of the large hospitals. Or they may sign when they come on that they will agree to get their bachelor's within 3 years. So there is some evidence. I don't have my reference list with me.
Other questions from the committee? Commissioner?
We haven't heard much on this panel about the issue that I keep hearing about, that it's not a capacity issue, that it's not a question of whether we need community colleges to step in the breach because universities can't do the job. What I keep hearing is that expanding the authority of community colleges to offer BSN programs won't address the faculty shortage issue. How are you going to address that, particularly those representatives from two-year institutions who would like to offer BSN programs? Because we've already heard in an earlier panel about the rating that's going on in the area. That doesn't help anything.
Well, at Houston, we are currently hiring faculty that meet those credentials. And we're finding that we're able to do that. We have a number of institutions, graduate institutions in the Houston area that have helped us be able to do that. What we want to do is see the universities focus their time and their attention and their effort on moving more of our bachelor's prepared students through to master's degrees and to PhD programs. And that's really where the growth at the university could help the whole system raise the number of BSN nurses as well as faculty prepared nurses to meet the needs of all of us.
And isn't that what you said happened in Florida?
Yes, sir, it is. And I
To that point, that's what they're seeing?
And also in Florida, they did what we have just done intrinsically, is to, within the community college, the faculty are excited about the potential, and so we have all gone, several of us, 9 of us, have gone back to school. So we will not raid any university for our faculty. I also want to add one thing. Austin Community College has one of the highest pass rates on the NCLEX. I'm a nurse first. Public safety, public health has been and will always be my priority. We have the privilege to start an RN to BSN program. That rigor will be maintained. And I believe that the other institutions who have expressed a desire to start an RN to BSN program feel the very same way. It's public safety first.
Also, in our magnet hospitals, I would tell you that the reality is, if you hold a bachelor's degree today, you come to the community college and you earn your associate degree and become a licensed nurse, those magnet hospitals will hire you as a bachelor's prepared nurse because you have a bachelor's degree. So this is not as much about the graduate education in nursing as it is about a credential. Now, personally and professionally from the others I spoke with, that additional nursing education is a greater benefit than just a bachelor's degree in some other area that may be completely unrelated to nursing. So I think we'll all benefit by having bachelor's prepared BSNs at our bedside when the day comes that we need them. But the associate degree nurse is not being devalued in the workplace. It's the credential requirements that are the issue.
One of the goals that we need to be looking at is how we get more people into the master's degree in nursing. And a strategy that's been used in many states today is associate degree to master's, skipping the bachelor's in the process. And I think that then gets people on the track to pursue the doctorate, so that we can continue to grow the faculty. So I think that as we're moving, we need to not stop at BSN, but look at other options that are there as well.
And actually this year, I'm sorry, Annie, go ahead.
I just want to say that currently we have a partnership with San Antonio Community College, in which is being funded by Methodist Healthcare Ministries, that we have our folks over there every other 2 weeks to be doing advising and to help building our partnership bridges. But we really are focusing on the AD and MSN because it's the unusual nurse that wants to go on, and there are some that are very clearly demarcated, and it will give them they'll finish the program sooner than in traditional master's programs, doing the baccalaureate to the master's. So we have focused our efforts in partnering with our community college in that direction.
They gain the BSN in that
and that track as well through that period of time, but they'll go directly from the ADN to the MSN, and then when they graduate, we award both the baccalaureate degree and a master's.
How much does that shorten the overall?
A semester.
Yeah.
A semester at the
Very similar, UT Arlington. We've just begun the RN to MSN program, and best we can tell, it's going to be about a 1 semester decrease in their coursework, and we'll save them basically 6 semester credit hours that they won't have to take. We're able to use some courses for both degrees.
And traditionally, it's been the MSN in nursing education that's been a problem in the workforce. Are they going on that track? Is that where they're headed?
One of the challenges with it's well known within the community and among the nursing profession that faculty are very underpaid, and so a new graduate, it's been quoted, comes out making $65,000. A PhD prepared nurse might get $65,000 for a 9-month contract, and so it's very difficult to. We had example this actually this week. I had a new faculty that was master's prepared pursuing his DNP, and we were very excited. Saw leadership opportunities for him. We're thinking about how we could maximize his abilities, and he's taken a position in practice for about $50,000 more than we could pay him a year. And so that's the kind of challenge that we're facing, particularly with those nurse practitioner faculty. So I think it's very difficult sometimes to recruit nurses into a master's in nursing education program. What we have been successful at doing is offering some of our education courses to people that are in other master's programs. So they're in the master's program to become a family nurse practitioner, but they think they may also want to teach. So we'll encourage them to take up at least 6 hours, up to 12 hours of education courses. So at least they're somewhat better prepared for that new role. And one of the ways that we have been able to expand is that many of our faculty are part-time, and they are working in clinical practice, and that's how they have a salary. And then they come to work for us as really a contribution to the profession.
No.
All the data is important, but also human behavior is important. And understanding students and the student population. And that's not one understanding, that's thousands of understandings, because the English is a second language student, the first generation college student, the mature student that's balancing family, work, life, all of those things, they all have different needs. Some online education works for. Some these transfer programs work for. I have a program with UT Health Sciences. They take only 15 out of my program in an early admission program. They know they're going there. But there's just so many different folks with so many different needs that having all of these options that other states are now offering to students has really changed the game. And it's allowed, regardless of the human issues going on with people, it's allowed them to all find a way that they can make this education thing work for them. I told you I didn't go back to school till I was 28. I have a PhD, a JD, and a postdoctorate in business law. That all happened because the community college provided a pathway for me. And I can tell you, I'd have stayed at my community college and finished a bachelor's degree if I could have done that. Because for me, I drove 50 miles each direction, worked full-time, and raised my daughter to go to the university. Those are the realities of people, the human side of this question. So it's not, while we can debate the mission creep and the roles of the universities, and we can all cheer for our favorite football team, at the end of the day, this really, really is about the people of the state of Texas, people like me, who have to find a way to get that education.
I'd like to go back to the Commissioner's question, and one thought. I don't know the answer to this, but I'd be interested to know what type of capacity that we have in our universities currently for PhDs or DPN nurses. And if there's capacity there, then there's a pipeline. If there's not capacity there, then would we look at adding additional doctoral programs for that pipeline? So, and so that's kind of my thought. Yes, you have to get someone to get their master's degree to get to the next level. But as you said, they get jobs, higher paying jobs than at universities. But I'd be interested in that pipeline. And the other thing I'd like to say is I can't commit to this, but at UH Clear Lake, we have a healthcare administration program in the Texas Medical Center. And so I don't know if there's any possibility of getting approval down the road for an RN to BSN program at that Texas Medical Center to help serve some of the nursing shortages.
How many DPN programs did we approve last year? None?
We approved some DNP programs.
DNP, I'm sorry. You knew what I meant.
Well, I actually met with some.
Is there an answer to that question? 2? And how many are there approved now? Do we know?
I believe 8.
There's 8 or 9, isn't there?
Yeah. I met with some university deans of nursing programs and asked them if they were at capacity, and all of them said no, that they could take more, especially for the BSN programs, but for expanding the master's and DNP programs, I think most of them could expand. Whether they have the participants ready to enter is, I don't know. I'm kind of agreeable with Dr. May's suggestion that we do a tuition forgiveness for some of the PhD programs.
That is one of the things that has helped in some other states. There are states who believe that an investment in a person that's willing to get a PhD is worth paying their tuition or giving them tuition forgiveness. And so there are states that have been able to do that. In fact, I've been at conferences and competed for students against those people in the exhibit area. I want to make a clarification, though, because doctors of nursing practice, their focus is on the clinical setting and on the healthcare system. It is translating research into practice. It is not developing new knowledge. And so although we have had some growth in DNP programs, and they are very attractive because many of them are online, they have fewer hours, it's become increasingly difficult. If a person just needs a doctoral degree, it's become increasingly difficult to get a student to come to a PhD program. That if you're going full-time, you may be able to get through in 3.5 years. But if you're going part-time, it's more like 7 years. And so what I'm seeing is about 70% of our current student in the PhD program at UT Arlington are already faculty at many of the community colleges and even some of the universities. So they are seeking that, but at the same time, it's not just time to come to class. That an employer will give them that day to come to class. It is time to do the in-depth reading and research that's going to require to really bring them up. Just, you expect a physician to be doing, if he was in training, to be doing a whole lot more than just attending class. And so while having the opportunity to attend class is valuable, it takes an extraordinary amount of their personal time and personal investment. And for many of our students, they're looking at it from a financial standpoint. I'm 55. If I get my PhD by the time I'm 62, how much longer can I contribute? And is this a financially good decision for me to make? And so I think getting students into PhD programs younger is going to be critical. We currently have a BSN to PhD program, and we've not had a lot of interest in that. We recruit strongly for it. We look at our best and brightest out of our BSN program and try to get them to come immediately back after a year of practice to come into that program so that we can have PhD prepared nurses who are in their 40s. I mean, novel idea to actually be prepared and be able to have a 20, 25-year career in nursing education. One final point, DNP programs, by virtue of their curriculum, they are very clear that they do not prepare people to be faculty, where that is one of the expectations of PhD programs, that you are being socialized into the academy and being able to be a faculty member.
Members, any other questions? Goldman? Panel, thank you. Great job. Great information. We appreciate it.
Thank you to the panelists. Mr. Chairman, we have a very short recap of the public comment that we'd like to share with you, and I'd like to invite Lindsay Doherty and Lindsay Butterfield up to the dais.
We brought a few copies of what we presented last time, if anyone would.
Okay, great.
Oh, absolutely. That's the reason I went back when.
Hi, everyone. We just wanted to share with you a couple of the comments that we received, and then also some of the changes that were made to the report for those of you who were unable to reread the full report again. I'm sure all of you were jumping to do that. So we had 19 comments from institutions. They came from 11 institutions, so one of the institutions submitted 8 comments. We also had a comment from a Texas state representative, and we had a comment from an economic development organization in support of community college baccalaureates, and we had a comment from someone from an advocacy group. A lot of the comments really kind of reiterated points that were already made in the report, and so we felt that changes were not necessary to the report to address those comments. However, there were a few that were made that we did make changes in response to. I think one of the most important ones, that we made was in the field of health information technology. It was brought to our attention that we did not quite fully explain all the nuances of that particular field, and there is some difference between health information technology and health information administration. And we earlier made the conclusion that there was no need for a baccalaureate in health information technology, that the needs were really at the associate certificate level and at the graduate level, but that really ignores this health information administration field where there is a need. There are 2 programs currently offered at universities in health information administration. And this looks very similar to some of the other applied science baccalaureates that we've talked about, where it's individuals who want to move into management positions and need to top off their technical skills with some additional management skills. And so we now have added some content to the report to describe kind of these differences and suggest that there is a small need for baccalaureate degrees in health information administration, and that from our analysis, we see that those needs are, for the most part, being met by the existing programs. I think another important change we made, we heard that from several institutions that there was too much focus on mission creep, that the focus on mission creep in the report far exceeded the evidence that there was an issue of mission creep. So we have reduced a lot of that repetition and mention of mission creep. Our personal kind of response to that is that, there is mixed evidence on mission creep. Mission creep's also, an argument, something that needs to be looked at for many, many years. And there are not good studies out there right now that really give us conclusive answers on mission creep. There's a lot of strong evidence, as Shirley Reed talked about, that they haven't grown. They haven't ballooned into huge portions of the student population. It's still, even in Florida, where every community college is offering these programs, it still represents a very small percentage of all students enrolled. I think on the other side, many people would argue that the fact that there are now 270 baccalaureate programs at community colleges may be evidence of mission creep. So it really depends on kind of which piece of the evidence you're looking at, whether you're looking at the percentage of students enrolled or whether you're looking at the total number of programs. And there may be reasons to be concerned about having hundreds of very small programs that are costly, but do not have a lot of student enrollment in those individual programs. I think one other very small thing that we added that I think was actually raised in an earlier conversation with you all is that some portion of UT Arlington's nursing students do come from out of state. So when we present data on the number of students who are graduating from these RN to BSN programs, you do need to account for students who are out of state and are probably not working in the state of Texas. And that accounts for, I think from our calculations, approximately 20% of the graduates at UT Arlington. We also made some changes. We have a rigorous peer review process at RAND, and we had an internal reviewer and an external reviewer, and they made some comments on some confusion about these different terms, applied science. There was some confusion about what is an applied baccalaureate, so we have made some changes to the report. We've reorganized some things and added some additional clarifications about that. So I think that pretty much captures it. Those are the changes, and we're happy to answer any questions you have about specific changes, but
questions? Okay, great, thank you.
Good report. Thank you.
Excellent report.
Thank you.
Now we need to vote on accepting that report
Right.
to move that forward to the board.
So I need a motion to accept the report from the RAND group.
Point of clarification.
We're simply accepting the report. This has nothing to do with staff recommendations, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
The second?
You're the motion.
I'll move it.
Second. And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
Now we're going to move into the discussion about the recommendations, and these are draft recommendations. But the plan is for us to get your input into these recommendations, see if you're comfortable with them, not comfortable with them, where we would like to go from here. And it's on the yellow. And then we will bring forward more formal recommendations with everybody's input to the July board meeting as part of your kind of legislative discussion about recommendations to the legislature.
Sure.
I wanted to say in regard to the staff comments that we took two primary responsibilities of the coordinating board into consideration. The first was that the coordinating board and our political leaders have had a long-standing commitment to making certain that anybody who wants to achieve a post-secondary credential in Texas has the opportunity to do so. That's the reason that we've opened the doors of the state to institutions like Western Governors University. That's why several years ago the coordinating board loosened its rules regarding the ability of for-profit institutions to start up operations. We made a decision to make it easier for them to start up, but we would monitor the quality of their programs. We accepted the challenge of the governor for a $10,000 baccalaureate because it was consistent with this notion that we have a primary and fundamental responsibility to expand educational opportunities in Texas. On the other hand, one of our primary responsibilities as a state agency, and it's in the founding language that established the coordinating board, is we have a responsibility to avoid unnecessary duplication of programs and to make certain that that the resources of the taxpayers of this state in terms of their use in higher education are directed in the most cost-efficient way possible. So the staff determined that there is, and I think you heard it from the two panels today, that there is a strong, or there are strong, compelling reasons in certain circumstances for community colleges to offer baccalaureate degrees. And I think that's the reason that our recommendations suggest that that the board take the position that we accept the notion that there is a strong argument to be made to expand the authority of community colleges to offer baccalaureate degrees, but that we do it in a measured and thoughtful way. That we evaluate proposals for baccalaureate degrees if the legislature sees fit to grant us the authority to review more baccalaureate programs from community colleges, and we make certain that they take the necessary steps such as conferring with regional and local universities about the offering of a particular degree. That we look at cooperative programs and transitional programs as a way of ensuring that there isn't undue competition between the two sectors, and that there is a strong demonstrated workforce need in a particular community for a particular baccalaureate degree at a community college. I think it's clear that that community colleges from the three institutions we have currently that offer baccalaureate degrees, that community colleges can offer high-quality baccalaureate degrees, and that there isn't any due competition between the two. South Texas College and UT Pan American are what, 7 or 8, 10 miles apart? I think you go down, you head north and take a right, correct? And I think we can develop procedures, and we can develop policies that I think will accommodate the need to expand baccalaureate programs on a case-by-case basis at community colleges, and that we can also respond to the concerns expressed by universities.
David.
So I want to compliment the folks at RAND and certainly all the stakeholders as well as our own staff. I thought it was an excellent report. I thought we got excellent input. There's been now 2 sets of great panel discussions here. I agree with the staff recommendations, but I'd like to offer some additional comments, and my comments are based upon what my comments were before. With regard to the first recommendation regarding providing multiple pathways, I really think we need to insert at the end of that third line behind cost efficient that they maintain or increase academic rigor. I think that's something we heard fairly clearly, that there was concern about the academic rigor not being maintained. I think that it is being maintained in the current programs that we have, but I think that should be a general principle that we maintain or increase academic rigor. With regard to bullet point number 2, I think that additionally, as you follow on from that, if we added the words, and if these existing resources have additional capacity, that they expand enrollment through partnerships, articulation agreements, and distance learning. I mean, clearly we heard there was opportunity. The paradigm has changed within Texas higher education in the last 11 years. There weren't articulation agreements. There weren't partnerships, not to the extent that there are now. And there wasn't the use of distance learning. And where we have capacity, and this gets back to finite resources, if somebody has created a very high quality, academically rigorous program that can be used anywhere across the state, why wouldn't we ask that that program sign articulation agreements, have partnerships, and use distance learning to be able to make that accessible when it can be to all the members of the community of students in our state? And so those would be my 2 suggestions, and I guess I could move that be accepted in lieu of the recommendations from the staff.
All right, so is added to or in lieu of?
Added to, amended.
I'd like to say added to.
I would like to offer a motion to amend it and adopt it.
Okay. A motion. Motion has been seconded. All right. All right, but what we're doing right now is just adding the language at the moment, okay?
Correct. Correct.
Right. So all in favor of adding the language that Dr. Tesher?
I think we have a comment from our general counsel.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding, and maybe Dr. Gardner or Susan Brown can clarify for me, but I thought the intro to this was that we were simply going to discuss so that staff would have the benefit of the board members' observations.
It was not posted as a voting item.
Yeah.
So
What staff one was?
It would go to the
it would go
July
forward.
board meeting with
Should,
your
at the board meeting, I think that
recommendations.
Dr. Tesher's motion would certainly be in order, but that change, given recommendations today and other board members.
So we have consensus that you could edit the recommendation. Edit the recommendation, and so what will go forward to the board will include this language, but it is not a voting item. It was not posted as a voting item for y'all to vote on these actual recommendations at this point. We wanted to make sure that we had a very full sense of what y'all wanted to recommend.
All right, so what you're doing right now then is taking
all
David's
this input, and we will
comments,
and those will be translated into formal recommendations
all right,
for the
forward.
July board meeting.
We're all good with that, right?
Yep.
So we've accepted the RAND report. Your recommendation, or the discussion.
That's just conversation.
Discussion is about these recommendations, and if y'all have
Directional.
right.
Yeah, we've laid out on the blue sheet what it is we're thinking about developing for the board's final consideration, and these kinds of comments will be taken into account, and we'll make those
Correct.
necessary changes.
We'll make all the necessary changes as we move forward. We will also be sending them out to the for comments to institutions and that sort of thing.
And that gave you greater ability to take into account what you heard from the panels today.
Right.
Because we wanted to make sure.
Our recommendations.
Okay, Bobby. Quick.
Chris.
First, for both groups of panels, thank you. I thought your passion came through, and I thought it was very valuable. I wrote down 4 comments that I want to give you, but I think you've done a great job of capturing the real essence of both sides of the argument. First, we need to encourage and certainly not unravel partnerships. And I think that's a very, very important first step. 2, this does not need to be a blanket approach, but a very, very targeted approval process as we go through. 3, there needs to be demonstrated need, and that's specifically based on geography, demand, or shortages that we see in the workplace. And then 4, and not that it's the least important, maybe the most important, but 4 is that we address cost, because cost is critically important. And if we capture those 4, and I think you've done a very good job of that in here, okay. If we do those 4, I think almost everybody on the panel, though some very unique differences, would agree that's a fairly valid approach to where we're going.
Very good recommendations. Yeah.
And UC Rex Peebles is up here too. This has definitely been a team effort. We have worked with the war and with David and the commissioner quite a bit on this throughout the whole process, getting input from everybody. So.
In fact, one of our Lindsays sits on the 3rd floor working constantly. Whenever you walk in, she's actively working. So this has been a tireless effort by everyone. We appreciate Rand's effort, and we really appreciate all the efforts by the higher ed community to comment, to provide feedback. We couldn't have done this without that. It's been really critical.
So are there any other comments that we would like to impart with staff as far as directionally than what we've already stated? No one feels good with what we've got, because they'll then bring that back to the entire board in July. And
correct.
At that point,
in terms of a solid recommendation. Right. We just wanted,
that's fine.
We didn't want the recommendations to assume that, you wouldn't be influenced by the panel and that sort of thing. We wanted to make sure that you were able to hear them before having to vote forward.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next agenda item. And that agenda item is item 5B, which is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee on the study relating to the relationship between the receipt of grant aid and charges and participation, persistence, and graduation. Susan Brown, Assistant Commissioner, Planning and Accountability, is available to answer questions. The report is provided.
Right. Under separate cover. This was kind of an unusual report. We had a writer that said to do this study. However, it did not say that the institutions had to provide us the data. So we ran into a little bit of an issue. We had 7 institutions that did provide us data. It was some of them provided all the data. Some of them provided what was available. And I will say I appreciate all the work that those 7 did, because this was an over and above anything that was required in their financial aid offices, and this is the financial aid offices are very busy. We provided the type of information we could, which was mainly descriptive. We didn't have data going back multiple years to be able to look at persistence. Also, without having the financial aid offered at all the institutions statewide, it was very hard to try to do any kind of comparison, because we did find students, about 14% of those were enrolled at another Texas institution. We don't yet know whether they receive financial aid at those other institutions. We won't get that data till this coming fall. One of the legislative recommendations that you will see coming forward, probably discussed tomorrow, is that we get rid of this rider, or else make them all supply us with this information, because having it on a voluntary basis is not really very effective use of anybody's time or effort. So We provided you as much data as we could, which is
So
obviously not
let me see
very
if I
much.
understand. The Rider 56 directed the coordinating board to do this, but did not require the universities to provide the information.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have actually talked to the sponsor of the rider, and he is fine with us getting rid of it because
Okay.
he doesn't want to put additional reporting burdens on the institutions.
So we've got what we've got. Yep. Motion.
So this fulfills our obligation for that rider.
Yes,
We're reporting.
we're reporting. That's,
Got it.
Data's the data. What we got is what we got.
what we got is what we got.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5C is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee relating to the approval of the Closing the Gaps 2015 progress report, including results of the higher education assistance plans, House Bill 2550, 83rd Texas Legislature regular session. Susan Brown will walk us through this.
Okay, this is our Closing the Gaps progress report. House Bill 2550, there is an additional kind of report attached to it, so I'll go into that in a little bit. We're going to go ahead. Uh-oh. There we go. Participation. Although our participation did drop for the first time, we actually are still within reach, but we'd have to increase our enrollment 27,000 each year, so for fall 14 and fall 15, in order to reach our target. And this is where you can see that. The drop was in white enrollment, and it was at the community colleges. That goes back to we have a stronger economy, we have more people going to work, they're not going back to school, they're not enrolling. So that's kind of one of those things. Despite the drop in the African American enrollment, we're actually well above target. They actually have the highest percentage of their population enrolled at 7.6%. Hispanic population is at 5.2%, and the white population is at 5.5% of the total. Hispanic growth, we're not on track. We haven't been on track, and part of this is even though we've had huge enrollment growth in our Hispanic population, the population is growing so rapidly that it's been very hard to keep up. We would actually need 77,000 additional Hispanic students each year to reach our target. We've talked about this many times.
Susan, can I clarify that?
Sure.
Does the target change as the denominator changes?
As we get, yes. And that's why you'll see
So it's a percentage.
It's a percentage.
So these numbers move according to population growth.
The target is 5.7% of the population.
So if
That's
we
how
would
it
have
was
used
based.
the original targets, we've exceeded those.
If we had used the original targets, we would have exceeded it.
Okay.
However, the board made the decision coming up on 10 years ago. I don't know.
And I'd just like to add,
Back in the previous
I think
slide.
the strength of the process the board put in place is it reacts to the changing context of Texas. We would have achieved most of these things 7 years ago, but we really wouldn't be where we needed to be. And so I think that's a great strength, and hopefully we'll maintain that with the new plan.
This is something we've talked about. Every single major ethnic group, racial group, the men are not going and completing at the same rate as the women. That worries me. I have 2 boys. So I plan on making sure they make it through, but you know, they are 18 and know everything, so we'll go from there. Success, here's a little bit of good news. 7 of our 10 targets have been met and are continuing to increase. We have surpassed our undergraduate awards. We surpassed that back a couple years ago now. We are increasing at every single level. We're increasing at the associates, the certificates, the bachelors. Everybody is going up. That is the good news. Doctoral was never really a major concern because we all knew that institutions want to offer more and more doctoral programs. And so we are getting what we expected there. African Americans have increased across the board. In fact, they've increased overall by the largest percentage. You will see a big increase in the independent and career, the green, and I have this on the same scale as the Hispanics for a reason. So even though they've had huge increases, they're still not at the same level as the Hispanic as far as completions. They did have a very slight increase this year. And most of that increase, if you look in the independent and career colleges, are in the career colleges, and part of that is we actually have much better reporting. As the commissioner said, we are collecting a lot of information. We made it easier for career colleges to start offering programs in Texas, but we are following up and we are tracking their students better. So we're getting better information from them. Hispanics, we do at least continue to see large increases in their completion. Yeah, we actually have met the target for undergraduate awards for Hispanic students.
And I think it's important to pay note to that, but because given that we haven't achieved what we wanted to in participation, that we've achieved the target in completion is even more impressive. So that while we don't have the enrollments that we really need to have, those that are enrolling are succeeding at a much higher rate. So that's very positive.
This is one area that we've struggled and we continue to struggle. We are seeing some good growth now in the engineering and computer science awards. So you saw, say in 2006, 2008, a decline in computer science, and now we're starting to see that increase again. So we are going in the right direction. We are still probably 10,000 short of what our actual target is, which is about 29,000. Allied health and nursing, we just had a very long discussion about that. As you can see, the first 5 years, when we set the targets for closing the gaps, we had just come off of 7 years of steady decline in allied health and nursing degrees being awarded. So our original target was just to stop the decline. We were able to do that with the help of the legislature. A couple of the panelists today even talked about the nursing shortage reduction program, which we run, being very helpful to get more funding into the nursing programs to allow them. So we've actually surpassed the target, the current target, and truthfully, we probably would have increased the target if we had more years to go out, because after review, we may have gone ahead and done an increase there. Unfortunately, we go back to the teachers. Part of this has to do with, we had, for the first time in Texas, or in many, many years, we actually had some layoffs a few years ago. So you saw those teacher certification programs kind of dropping and students not going ahead and getting their certifications. We are seeing an uptick now in 2013, and hopefully that will continue. We are not where we need to be.
It's important to note our shortfall in math and science teachers, because given we just talked about needing more in technical fields, college graduates, well, we can't really have those unless we have the supply of well-prepared teachers in the math and sciences. So these things fit together, and I think we only have last I looked, about 900 math graduates a year in Texas. That includes people who will be teachers and those who will not be. That is an increase, but it's a very small number. We don't produce enough just to supply the openings we have if everybody went into teaching.
So, excellence excellence has always been one of those things that's been very hard to measure. You know, it's you see it when you know it when you see it, but that's not very measurable. We have some examples. We have individual programs, even though UT and A&M have not actually made it into the top 10 for the U.S. News and World Report ranking. It's also not the end-all be-all. Graduate programs and many of the undergraduate programs have been rated very highly, and that continues to be true. We have some of our community colleges, the Temple College, the Bioscience Institute, which received a STAR Award. The Baldrige Award went to Richland College a few years back.
Susan, I'd like to make a point about the excellence issue. I'm one of those people. I've never paid any attention to the U.S. News and World Report rankings at the undergraduate level. They're grossly biased in favor of private institutions. My favorite example is UC Berkeley, which I think is ranked something like 22 in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. I don't know anybody that knows anything about higher education that thinks that Berkeley is only the 22nd best national research university in the country. At the graduate level, I think the U.S. News and World Report rankings are valuable because they're essentially peer assessments. And we've seen some very significant improvement. Dave and I talked about this the other day. UT Austin has moved up very substantially in rankings of graduate programs. A&M has been moving up dramatically. We've seen some improvements by some of the emerging research university. UT Dallas has made some progress. The University of Houston has made some progress. One of the things that struck me about the U.S. News rankings were that Texas is doing very well in terms of its online programs at both undergraduate and graduate levels. Sam Houston State has some nationally recognized programs. So I just want to contextualize the notion of excellence. Our institutions are much stronger now than they were in the year 2000. And I think that perhaps our over-reliance on the U.S. and World Report rankings don't indicate that. And I also think that we have a number of community colleges that have received some very significant awards, and I think that we don't have a very good way to judge the excellence of community colleges, but I don't think there's any question that higher education, public higher education in Texas has improved dramatically. I've said to Dave, and I think I've said it to members of the board, that if I had to pick one of the four goals that was most important, I would pick success. And there we've had extraordinary improvement. We're fixing developmental education. We've seen some very dramatic improvements in the past 3 or 4 years. That will make a huge difference in our results 15 years from now. But I think we've underestimated how well we've done in terms of improving excellence. Yeah. And I think that our universities and our two-year institutions particularly should be recognized for dramatic improvement across the board.
And I'd like to just add 3 more examples quickly if I could. Since the provost is here from Clear Lake, they were noted as having very excellent online programs by U.S. News and World Report. Texas Woman's isn't often mentioned, but their occupational therapy program shows up very well. Their graduate program, I think that should be noted. Something that doesn't show up, it's been a few years now, but when Applied Materials came to Austin, they had a history of hiring baccalaureate graduates for their assembly, and they couldn't find enough graduates, and they went to ACC and developed a program with ACC to produce the people who would really manage that production process, because they believe people with critical thinking skills were important to that. And working with ACC, they developed, rather than at the bachelor's level, people through ACC that fill those positions. So there are a whole range of things that have happened. So I think, the commissioner and I could probably name another dozen if given the time, but I know we need to move on.
Research. This has been a problem with the research. 2011 is the latest national research data that is available. That's been one of our things. We did actually fall. This graph shows that even though we have decreased in the percentage of research obligations, we have actually increased in the dollar. So the board made the decision to go to a percentage of the national obligations a few years back, because you could always increase your money even though you weren't really gaining market share, and that's what we've done actually. Because it is a older 2011, we actually still don't have the national lab that went into A&M and that sort of thing. It's still doesn't even show up in the data yet. And so that's been one of the frustrating factors we've had.
This is our actual research expenditure. We actually met this target back in 2008. And these are the research. You saw a little bit of a dip in 2012 for the research expenditures, but that has actually come back up, which is good news.
Since we have some new members of the board, it's just important to point out the other had to do with federal dollars. This measure includes dollars that may come from the federal government, it may come from the state, it may come from industry, it may come from even dollars generated at the institution itself. And these are dollars they actually spend in the year, not with the promise of it to come. So it's a different kind of measure.
Now we're going to go into this new section that in statute it says it has to be a part of the Closing the Gaps progress report. So it's here. It's designed to increase the college going rate and have institutions working with low high schools in their area that have low college sending rates. What we've done is, because we didn't really know which institutions were working with which high schools, we did a survey to talk about what they're doing. Are they offering dual credit? It went to both the community colleges and universities. The summary of the reports are in your thing, in the report. We looked at some of the colleges that were taking dual credit. We'll be tracking some of the things. We based the entire survey on information that we already have available. One of the issues that the universities and community colleges have is that they're like, we're always reporting, we're spending all of our time reporting, so we base it on information we have. We get the high school graduate data from TEA. We are using it for this purpose to look at which students and how are they making a difference in the students that are moving through those institutions, those low-performing high schools, and moving on into universities and community colleges. So we'll be looking at that. Most of our high schools were actually working or have started working with institutions that had low sending rates. They've obviously, this first slide just gives you information about those high schools. So 21% versus 54% statewide. They are very low performing. Now we're going to be going back and we'll be looking at the high schools where we didn't have anybody report that they were working with one of those high schools, and we will go to the closest higher ed institutions and we'll talk to them and say, look, somebody needs to be partnering with these high schools and try to facilitate that partnership going forward. Then we'll be looking at what they're doing. They have a whole litany of things that they can be doing. They can be having a counselor, a college advisor on their campus, and we'll be looking at these. A lot of these do have Advise Texas counselors on their campus. Some of those have only been in place a year, and trying to change that high school culture is going to take more than a year. It's going to take a few years to get, start building that culture, that college-going culture that we like to talk about. And so we're working with Judy Laredo's division to make sure that we can implement some programs in those schools that would help the colleges.
Susan, maybe we need to be going to middle schools instead of high schools. Yes. I mean, maybe we're missing out somehow. And what are we missing? We know that the dual credit programs increase the probability that somebody's going to go, but students aren't taking advantage of it. The identified high schools had a college going rate of 21 versus 54%, and if they do go to college, the probability of them finishing
is pretty low.
What are we not doing?
In those high schools, there's a lot of economic factors, obviously, that, they kind of mirror the preparation in high school and the economic factors. So we are starting to do the Advise Texas. We're starting to get, like I said, there are some of the high schools that we don't have an institution partnering with those high schools. So the first thing we need to do is say, look, you need to go partner. You need to go help work with those high schools. We now have the college prep courses through, I believe that was part of HB5, where the community colleges will kind of do a senior year prep course. And I think hopefully we'll see some improvements based on getting that college prep. it's almost it's in partnership with the high school where they offer, it's almost a developmental ed, but it's still in high school. It's like, here's what you really need to know in order to, be ready to go to college. And hopefully that will help the persistence rate for those schools, college going rate and persistence rates, because they'll feel more like they actually can go. They actually can do these things.
We have to figure out a way, we're trying to lead them to water you can't make. We got to figure out a way to get them to drink the Kool-Aid,
I agree.
It's just too important.
I agree. And I think Judy's group is, we're working on a summer melt
There's
program
nobody
right
more
now.
passionate than Dr. Laredo.
Yes. And so we're working with Judy's group to we provide them the data and they can go out and work with them and get those institutions. But we also need to get the institutions involved in those. We can't do it all from the coordinating board. We
Right.
have to have their local communities involved in the P16 councils working to get everybody involved.
And based on the summer melt process, our group that meets Fridays to sort of review where we stand, Jose Rios in particular and Jarrell Booker, it looks like we will be literally texting a huge number of students this summer in cooperation with schools where they're having the issue of people being admitted and not actually enrolling. So we're coordinating that. Jarrell is contacting schools individually, and we've got some money left in our budget. So the cost per text is very low, but there'll probably be multiple texts to the students to remind them of key things they have to do. So we're looking, once you've got them at least knocking on the door, you have to make sure they walk through.
Harold, I think one more thing we need to think about is just the basics, and we had a presentation at another meeting that high school counselors are often taken away from their purpose, and they are assigned extraneous things that just don't fit anywhere else. They become the dumping place for projects. And if we can encourage school districts to really allow high school counselors, and even at a lower level where they could have that personnel still go back to what their main purpose is to prep kids for secondary education. So.
Well, but with HB 5, we're looking at a huge shortage of counselors anyway.
Absolutely, but I think that's so basic, and I just see it across the state that we've really lost that ability to use that personnel for what they should be used for.
If I could follow up, that's been a long-term issue, and it's time for it to be addressed. But in terms of the summer melt in Alston, what they are doing is they're actually identifying and provide counselors from the high schools and providing them summer income to actually continue their work through the summer. And it's been very effective. So if it's successful enough, the schools in this area are hopeful that their colleagues in the rest of the state will pick up that model. So they're sort of developing it here.
Just one other thing, because Harold had said it, I'm sorry I saw it, was, and jokingly or not, but, earlier, do we do anything in that middle school piece at all that starts that path? I mean, do we have any kind of programs along those lines?
I'm going to have to refer to Judy. I don't know.
I think we still have a good number of middle schools that have Go Centers, don't we, Judy?
Good morning. Go Centers did not die. They've grown, and we still have people asking us for funds to supply them with the assistance to implement more Go Centers. I was also going to say, too, a lot of the work now that we're looking at with HB 5, tomorrow we have a huge, which we thought was not going to be as big, but 178 P16 councils connecting with us to help us with the work out in the field around schools and parents to better understand the curriculum. The other thing I wanted to mention that Susan made reference to, remember we did fund a post-secondary program of AVID. And AVID is a program that's down in the public school system that also is a follow-through at the post-secondary level. The other work that we have done that many times doesn't surface is the alignment work, the curriculum work to help teachers understand what's expected in post-secondary. Also, too, with our AVID program, we have expanded that to mentoring and tutoring down in the public school system. So there's many efforts going. It's just that there's so many variables and things change over time, and then we've got to adjust. But we have found things that are working that allow us to better expand ourselves, and our work with TEA has not ended. We are still connected in a different way than we were in the past, but remember our work now around HB5 and the CTE efforts has really connected us to work study, to, Workforce Commission, as well as to TEA. So there's a lot of expansion of the work, but you are right in your point, Mr. Hahn, that middle school is, in fact, it's down at the elementary level from the day that school starts, but you'd be surprised how much the message of Generation Texas has gotten out. So,
Go Centers, for those of you who may not know, are actual centers in the schools which are designed to help advise students on what they need to do to be prepared for college, how to go to college. And you might interpret the request from institutions for money for Go Centers to suggest we're funding them. We haven't funded them for years. And I think
in fact, when I arrived here is when we ended the funding.
Right. So the point I wanted to make is so they work well, and so the schools are maintaining them despite the fact we're not funding them any longer. And that's when you have a real successful initiative, is when the money stops flowing from an external source. Schools find a way to continue them because they make a difference. In fact, some of our schools that have advisors from Advise Texas are located in the same schools with Go Centers, and so it's really helping them in their process as well.
Got it.
You know, I may be coming in very late on this whole debate, and I'm not expecting anyone to make any comment or response, but I hear, and we hear a lot of public, private, civil society engagement into the system of educating our children. And for some reason, I was listening to NPR the other day, and in Netherlands, they were debating to completely stop sending kids home with schoolwork, homework. They were saying parents were getting very upset about spending time on homework for schools. And I was thinking about that, and I said, and I'm thinking right now, what happened to the time when we used to talk about parental involvement in this whole issue of educating a child? Just making a comment.
And that's where the work around the P16 councils has focused, is getting parents involved in community, both private and public entities, around the education system. So it speaks to exactly what you're saying. The parents are a child's first teacher before they ever came to school. So it's a very vital point, and unfortunately it's an area in our post-secondary education training of school administrators where we always haven't been as successful to help them understand, yet we require teachers to go out into the homes and make visits and to contact parents.
I just wanted to ask something. For the report over HB 2550, one of the activities that was listed was mentoring and tutoring. Mm-hmm. Was that just between higher education and high schools, or does that include anything in the private sector, like Big Brothers, Big Sisters? Or
this was specifically for a survey for the higher ed institutions to see what they were doing.
Okay. Is there any interest in looking at private sector things that are like, for example, Big Brothers, Big Sisters has a Mentor 2.0 program, which kind of runs along the same lines of a lot of the programs I've heard here, where you match up students from poor, or not poor, but poor, decreased college-going areas with people in the community to then kind of guide them through, just through a series of encounters. So I don't know if that's something that would be interested, or I guess I'd be interested in if there's any other programs like that.
We can check. We can get some more information. This was a survey, just a quick survey for the institutions, so that we had a starting point of who was working with which high schools and what type of work they were doing.
Okay.
And before we could move forward, we have to know where we're at.
And with our Gen Techs campaign, a part of what they do is work with local groups as well. And so that isn't reflected here, and that really varies from community to community. And the commissioner is actually on the board for Big Brothers Big Sisters.
I actually helped develop that Mentoring 2.0. I just stepped down. I was a member of the National Board of Directors of Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I've talked to to many of the heads of the largest Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies in Texas about mentoring in terms of achieving certain educational goals for kids. So yeah, we're aware of these organizations, and we know they can play a critical role. And I congratulate you for being a big.
We'll have to start calling you Mr. Big.
Move approval of the report.
Have a motion and a second to approve the report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Agenda item 5D is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee relating to the certification of Texas Research Incentive Program funds to the emerging research universities. Susan?
Okay. This program is based on institutions going out and getting private funds, and it's a matching grant. This is kind of how it lays out. We need for you to verify that, and then we can send the money out on September 1.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5E is an update on the Texas Higher Education Strategic Planning Committee activities. David.
Okay. I'll try to be very quick with this since lunch is waiting for you in the next room. We had our most recent meeting with the Planning Committee 2 weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago. And this was the first meeting at which we really worked with the committee to focus heavily on possible goals for the plan. As with all our meetings, we have 2 external speakers, and they're always very good. But we spent the last 2 hours of the meeting focusing on possible goals. It was a very intense discussion at many points, and what was most encouraging is with staff talked about, we couldn't think or identify one member of the committee that didn't participate in the discussion. So that's very positive. One goal that and I should say, whatever we think it's important for them to have some in place as they go forward, so they can focus their efforts more and more. And this meeting helped on that. But all the goals they identify early on will probably be somewhat different in the end. So you need to know that. The one goal that they agreed on, and I think will be tweaked in the end, but you've seen before, it came out of our board council on innovation, which talked about the workforce in Texas, that 60% of it by 2030 should have some level of college education. They have tweaked that to say of the 25 to 34 population. And that's really a very good change for a couple of reasons. Number one, that's the area in which we're least educated. You know, my generation, it compares well with other countries. The other aspect is there's a large focus on international competitiveness. And if you look at the international data, many of you have seen this either from Woody Hunt or the commissioner, or some of you may have presented it yourselves, is that where we're falling short in comparison with other countries is that same 25 to 34 population. So we're working with that number for this point. The second goal at this point is similar to what we have now in terms of success, but they're talking about completion, so that by 2030 we have, and this is a working number, it will probably change, 500,000 graduates at a certificate, associate, bachelor's level as we have now, talking about adding masters potentially, because at this point in time the masters seems to be making a large difference in the competitiveness of the graduates. And we know in some areas such as engineering, they seek master's graduates at that level. So that's being discussed. We had a third possible goal in terms of sort of workforce, in terms of a certain percentage of the population would would have a job in Texas within a year after graduating or go on to the next level of higher education. There was a lot of dissent on that one, and I can talk more with you about that later. The fourth one, which I think can be very important, we offered two possibilities. One was, both had to do with cost of student. The first was that tuition fees shouldn't be more than X percent of the Texas median family income at the university level and X percent at the community college level, given the structures are different. That one didn't fly so well for a number of reasons. The second one, in the final analysis, it seemed like perhaps a third of the committee is really leaning this way, which is something Forbes had suggested recently, is that the student debt shouldn't exceed their first year income. And I think in the final analysis and talking with Woody Hunt and the Vice Chair, Larry Faulkner, just earlier this week, I think they are thinking that's probably a way to go, or at least some variation of that. But they think focusing on student cost is very important. So that's the shape of where we're going. Hopefully, we'll be in a little bit better shape, and perhaps, and I need to talk with the committee chair and vice chair, we might be able to have a little bit more formal presentation at your next meeting, perhaps, so you can give some more feedback. It still would be a work in progress, but perhaps we could get one of them to come in and share where we stand at that
What
point.
is the time frame for completion?
We have to have this done by July 2015. We're hopeful to have a draft late fall because we need a lot of input from institutions. I haven't spoken but briefly once with the commissioner about this, but I'm thinking at least part of the theme of our governing board conference in the fall should be on these goals, so we'll have the regents and trustees and administrators in to discuss those, get more feedback at that point. Last year, we had some focus on that at the end of the conference, which we fed into the planning committee. But we need to begin to get that feedback. A couple of things have come up in terms, later they'll discuss strategies. One strategy that's being discussed. In fact, one of the goals might, at the staff level, we thought, instead of the how many people are actually employed, maybe talk about all of our programs by 2030, perhaps should have identified marketable skills for their graduates, whether it's art history or whether it's zoology, but that they focus on that. Commissioners talked about that. We don't know if that would exactly work into a goal. The other issue that Larry Faulkner brought up, which I thought was very important, is just the structure of funding in higher education, and that perhaps there should be a strategy going forward. The legislature needs to talk about how you really fund higher education. It's funded essentially the same in all states, and we're in this cycle of tuitions go up, funding by the legislature may or may not go up. Then you need more money for poor students, and it's sort of a vicious cycle. Is there some way to break that cycle? And I can tell you nobody knows the answer to that, but the schools obviously need the resources to provide quality programs. We can't, students have to be able to go to school. Money shouldn't be the reason for that, but can you just keep ratcheting up costs as we go along? So those are just some of the points that are coming out. So I think every meeting something comes up that's really worth discussion. And I do want the next meeting is on August 19th. It is online, so you can, if you want to tune into it, you can. And all of our meetings are archived. So if you want to hear one of the speakers we've had, or you just like to listen for yourself and have your own interpretation, we'd encourage you to do that.
Chairman.
Susan, you can help with this. What is the makeup of low-income students?
Graduating from high school, the makeup is about 60 to 75% low income, free and reduced lunch at that level. Entering higher ed, it ranges dramatically, obviously, from community colleges to universities, that sort of thing. I believe it's 50% or so now. If you looked at statewide, I'd have to go back and get those numbers for you, but I could do that.
So we know that...
We're talking Pell Grant.
Well, but we know that the financial issue is a major barrier. Of the 60 to 75%, what's the ethnic makeup? Ballparkish.
Ballpark for the high school graduates, it's probably 30% white. I want to say probably 10% African American, maybe 20 African American, and then 10% African American high school graduates.
Okay, so I just want to clarify. She's talking about the
Of the
pie,
pet-
which
Of the yes,
not how many of the
not how
African
many.
Americans are.
Yes, 10% are
Of the total.
of the total are African American, and then
60%
the rest are
60%.
Hispanic, and then in some areas, actually, the Asian community is getting in Houston. Asian communities.
So I guess what I'm saying is the 70% are probably African American and Hispanic. And
Right.
when I see the closing the gaps, we have all this breakdown between African American males and Hispanic males, but they're all included in that. It seems to me in the future that we ought to just be talking about those that hit the low income number, and we're including those in there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, we have presented some information to the committee on looking at how we can, where we can, like the points that we can push, and we're getting that data actually by economically disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged. We're not really looking at it by racial and ethnic groups at this point. We're looking at it by income level.
Yeah,
Right. Go ahead.
And if you look at if you look at the number that the Houston Endowment has been promoting, the group, and I know that these are different categories, that scores the lowest in terms of achieving a post-secondary credential after 11 years after the 8th grade is poor kids.
Yeah.
It's something like 9.5% compared to 11% of African Americans and Hispanics generally. So the most decisive factor, according to our data, is being poor. So that might be, that should
Yeah,
perhaps
the
be our
focus is
That was my
economic.
point, Janelle, is that we're going to encompass that by keeping track of, maybe that's what we need to do more of, is to help the poor kids.
Right.
Low-income kids, whatever you want to call it. Those are the ones that have the biggest barriers of getting a post-secondary credential.
Unfortunately, it's kind of mostly those low-income kids are also in the schools where they're not as well prepared.
Right.
So they get almost a double whammy right there.
Thank you.
Did we?
There's no vote on that one.
Oh, all right. Agenda item 5F is report on facilities projects that were submitted to the coordinating board.
And for the first time, you will notice that we actually have two that did not meet the standards. One of them is the construction of the new Dell School, which they didn't meet it just barely on the cost for new construction, medical schools. That's not really all that unexpected. And they didn't meet it on the efficiency. However, both of these buildings will meet the standard once the shell space is built out. And so that's a pretty common way. A lot of institutions are doing buildings that way because it's cheaper to build the external structure and then go back in when you have additional money to build out the shell space. So that's not a bad thing. UT Tyler, this is a pharmacy building, College of Pharmacy. Even though they are not, their classroom space utilization is not all that good. This is a pharmacy building, and it's totally different from what they've already have in place. So, and we will be sending, as required by law, sending information to LBB, Governor's Office, and the whole list of people that we have to send. But we will send them basically these two briefing pages that says, yes, they don't meet the standards, but here are the reasons why.
All right. So agenda item 5G is the committee will now break for lunch. And while a quorum will likely be present, no public business or public policy over which this board has supervision or control will be discussed. We intend to reconvene at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
But the venerable Dr. Tesher will not be among us.
Where's he going now? Back to order. Agenda item 5H is adjournment. Is there any discussion? I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.
All right. Prior